If Tianyu Real Estate comes with a civil approach, Bian Kai owns the Qingtian law firm with over a dozen elite lawyers. Furthermore, he now controls two major live streaming platforms, Wawa and Douyu. The power of public opinion these days is terrifying, but if they come with a martial approach, well, Bian Kai will show the boss of Tianyu Real Estate what despair truly means. Not only has he himself reached the level of a level 2 martial master, but any one of his brothers could easily give Tianyu Real Estate a run for their money. Zhang Xiaohong also went with Bian Kai. After all, she had been to Tianyu Real Estate many times and knew the place well. She also knew the relevant personnel and could act as a guide in the Qingnan district. Inside Tianyu Real Estate's temporary headquarters, Qiu Penghai stared blankly at the model in front of him. The model showed rows of residential buildings, no fewer than 100, arranged very neatly, ranging from ordinary high-rise apartments to luxurious detached villas that in Qiu Penghai's mind. This was more than just a model. It represented the future of Tianyu Real Estate. To bring it to life, he poured his entire fortune into it, and even took out billions in bank loans. 2 weeks ago, due to temporary financial difficulties, Qiu Penghai had to reapply for a loan, only to be rejected by the bank. The bank's reason was that his ongoing Qingnan district project was too risky, exceeding the permitted limits. Furthermore, the bank demanded that Qiu Penghai repay his previous loans early. How could this be? Although the land Tianyu Real Estate acquired wasn't large, its location was prime. According to Zhongbei City's plans, a large commercial district was to be built around it. Once the national-level industrial park project commenced, the prosperity of the area would be unimaginable. Logically, such a prime location would usually be snapped up by the Bai family. Given their deep-rooted resources, ordinary real estate companies simply couldn't compete. For some reason, the Bai family didn't attend the land auction. It said their staff got lost and arrived after the auction had ended. Without the Bai family's participation, the remaining real estate companies naturally perked up, bidding fiercely. The atmosphere at the auction was extremely heated, with the price soaring from 10 billion to 30 billion. Ultimately, Qiu Penghai won with a bid of 36.7 billion, acquiring the land and becoming the undisputed land king. Later, Bai Qingshan, chairman of the Bai Group, personally approached Qiu Penghai, offering him 40 billion to transfer the land, but Qiu Penghai refused. 40 billion for this land? What a joke. Compared to the entire massive industrial park, this plot of land wasn't large, but it could easily be developed into a large residential community. Most importantly, the large commercial district that Zhongbei City planned to develop around this area was the largest and most central in the entire industrial park, comparable to Zhongbei Plaza in downtown Zhongbei City. The value of this land is definitely far more than 40 billion. Who can you blame if your own employees made a mistake? Trying to make amends afterward? Too late. Logically, such a promising project shouldn't have difficulty obtaining a bank loan. After all, once completed and put on sale, the loan should be easily repaid. Qiu Penghai visited 4 or 5 banks in succession, only to receive the same result. All rejected him on the grounds that the project was too risky and did not meet the loan requirements. Finally, having no other choice, he secretly bribed a bank loan officer, finally understanding why the banks had refused to lend to him. It turned out that all the banks in Zhongbei City had received internal information that the originally planned commercial district had been relocated, and the new location was far from the land Qiu Penghai had purchased. Not only that, but a large chemical plant was also planned next to the land, directly turning the once prime piece of land into a heavily polluted area, rendering it practically worthless. Although chemical plant emissions are now treated to meet standards before being discharged, who would want to live next to a chemical plant? Even if someone did, it would undoubtedly be for the cheaper property prices. Upon hearing this news, Qiu Penghai nearly coughed up blood. He had spent over 30 billion yuan to buy this land. This change in planning rendered it completely worthless. Afterwards, he consulted a familiar leader to understand the situation. While the leader didn't explicitly state that the business district location had changed, they subtly advised Qiu Penghai to dispose of the land as soon as possible. It's all over, completely over. Now the land is worthless, causing banks to cut off loans, even threatening to withdraw them. Without financial support, the project is destined to fail. Once it fails, he won't be able to repay the banks, and the land will inevitably be seized. He will then have nothing left. It's a dead end, an unsolvable dead end. Because of this, Qiu Penghai, originally in his early 50s, aged rapidly at a visible rate, now looking like a man over 70. In the chairman's office of the Bai Group, a voluptuous and beautiful female secretary is reporting to Bai Qingshan. Chairman, Tianyu Real Estate can't hold on much longer. Qiu Penghai has started looking for buyers to sell that land at a low price, but other real estate companies are unwilling to take on this hot potato. What do you think? Should we act now, or wait a bit? Bai Qingshan's anger flared as he watched his secretary's rosy lips move. He pulled her close. Oh, Chairman, you have to make a decision first. Secrets can't stay hidden forever. If things get out, all our work will be for nothing. The secretary nestled shyly in Bai Qingshan's arms, speaking with a hint of coquettishness. A large group of people outside were waiting for a reply. Why did this old lecher have to get interested now? Hee, I know what I'm doing. We'll talk about it later. This isn't urgent. You should help me with something more pressing first. 5 minutes later, the secretary stood to the side, straightening her clothes, while Bai Qingshan wore a satisfied expression. That business deal had been quite thrilling. Qian, pass the word down. We'll close the net tomorrow. Send someone to contact Qiu Penghai and secure that land as soon as possible. The price can't exceed 7 billion. Chairman, aren't you going to negotiate in person? The secretary assumed Bai Qingshan would go. After all, he had personally handled the entire affair from beginning to end. It was time to reap the rewards, so there was no reason for him not to be there. I've done everything I could. Besides, do you think Qiu Penghai, with his current status, deserves my personal attention? Yes, Chairman, I'll arrange it right away. The secretary didn't say much, bowed slightly, and left the office. Bai Qingshan leaned back in his chair, lit a cigar, and leisurely smoked it. Bian Kai led the group at a brisk pace, arriving at Tianyu Real Estate's construction site in Qingnan District after about half an hour. Zhang Xiaohong looked at the bustling construction site in the distance and immediately recognized the person in charge who had kicked her out of Tianyu. Xiao Kai, that's him, Wang Mingliang. He's my husband Lao Chu's boss. When I came to discuss compensation, he just kicked me out. Bian Kai followed Zhang Xiaohong's finger and saw a dark-skinned, chubby man, covered in sweat, wearing a hard hat and holding a walkie-talkie, directing a group of workers. Because the construction noise was too loud, Wang Mingliang did not hear the roar of the sports car, but suddenly felt as if someone was pointing at him. When he turned around, he was shocked by what he saw. A row of supercars and luxury cars were parked on the roadside not far away, each accompanied by a burly man in a black suit and sunglasses. The immense pressure was palpable even from hundreds of meters away. Wang Mingliang spotted a familiar woman among the group. It was Chu Zhongxing's wife, Zhang Xiaohong. Damn it, this woman is like a persistent ghost. I wanted to compensate Chu, but the boss won't approve it. What can I do? The moment he saw Zhang Xiaohong, Wang Mingliang knew this group was probably there to cause him trouble. But this display of force seemed a bit excessive. He was just a small-time contractor. He shouldn't be receiving this kind of treatment. He even considered running away, but then he thought, wait a minute, he hadn't wronged Chu. Moreover, because Chu was highly skilled, he was always given priority when it came to benefits. As for not compensating Chu, that was the boss's decision. He was just following orders. It had nothing to do with him. After all, Wang Mingling was just an employee. Even if Zhang Xiaohong was unreasonable, what was there to be afraid of in numbers? There were plenty of burly men on the construction site. Given his prestige among the construction workers, while he might not have everyone's support, they certainly wouldn't stand by and watch him get beaten. Thinking this, Wang Mingling felt relieved and, ignoring Bian Kai and the others in the distance, continued directing the workers. "Aunt Zhang, are you talking about that fat, dark-skinned man?" "Yes, Xiao Kai, the one wearing the white hard hat. He kicked me out several times before when I came to discuss compensation," Zhang Xiaohong said, her face full of resentment. She was only entitled to compensation from Tianyu Real Estate, and she had never been unreasonable, yet she was still kicked out multiple times. Bian Kai nodded upon hearing this, then said to Tung Hu behind him, "Fifth brother, could you please arrange for 2 men to bring that fat, dark-skinned guy over? It's too noisy over there. It's not suitable for discussing business." Tung Hu, upon hearing Bian Kai's words, casually pointed to 2 bodyguards and headed towards the construction site. Wang Mingliang, seeing 2 burly men approaching from a distance, immediately sensed something was wrong and shouted, "Brothers, someone's here causing trouble. Quick, grab your weapons." To be fair, Wang Mingliang was quite popular at the construction site. His shout brought 40 or 50 construction workers to the scene, each carrying various tools, and the previously bustling construction work came to a halt. The 2 bodyguards rushing towards the site were genuinely intimidated by this imposing presence. These were all burly men who worked on construction sites year-round. Actually, both bodyguards were at the peak of their apprentice level. Dealing with these construction workers wouldn't be a problem for them. The key issue was that if they were actually beaten, the impact would be too great. Having already reached the halfway point, they had no choice but to stop and turn back to look at Bian Kai from a distance. The implication was, "Boss, what do we do now? Should we forcibly take him away, or wait?" Bian Kai naturally saw this scene as well. He hadn't expected this contractor, named Wang Mingliang, to be so charismatic. Glancing at the 2 bodyguards still awaiting his orders, Bian Kai gestured for them to stay put. "Aunt Zhang, let's go. Let's talk to this Wang Mingliang. Don't worry, he wouldn't dare kick you out this time, even if he had 10 lives." Zhang Xiaohong nodded. She had been startled when she saw the row of luxury cars and the group of bodyguards in black. She had even suspected Bian Kai was involved in organized crime, until he explained that these people were from a legitimate security company, responsible for protecting Bian Kai. Bian Kai and Chu Ling walked at the front, followed by Li Xiang and Tung Hu on either side, with Zhang Xiaohong in the middle, and then the 48 bodyguards in black. As for the drivers, Bian Kai didn't let them come along, mainly because they weren't very capable fighters. In a fight, they wouldn't stand a chance against the construction workers who worked on construction sites year-round. The 2 bodyguards who had been with them automatically rejoined the group as Bian Kai and his entourage passed by, and the group headed towards the construction site. Wang Mingliang was also dumbfounded. Although his side had roughly the same number of people, their morale was far inferior. The people on the other side were clearly skilled, far beyond the capabilities of his group of construction workers who only knew basic farming techniques. But having come this far, he couldn't back down. Without waiting for Bian Kai and his men to arrive, he led 40 or 50 workers to meet them head-on. The 2 groups quickly clashed, and the difference in skill was immediately apparent. Bian Kai's group consisted of well-trained experts, while Wang Mingliang's group was a ragtag bunch, tall, short, fat, thin, some carrying shovels, some carrying steel bars, and some carrying bricks. Before Bian Kai could speak, Wang Mingliang shouted, "Sister-in-law Chu, what do you mean by this? I made it very clear to you before that not compensating Chu is the boss's decision. It has nothing to do with me. I've tried to negotiate with the boss, but what can I do if he won't approve? Then why are you stopping me from seeing the boss and kicking me out? It only shows that you're guilty. You didn't tell the boss at all, or you've embezzled old Chu's compensation." Zhang Xiaohong was also furious upon hearing Wang Mingliang's words. Every time she came, he would say the same few words and then have her thrown out. She, a woman, was powerless. Although she had filed a lawsuit, who knew when the judgment would be issued, and even if it was, whether she would receive compensation was uncertain. "Oh, sister-in-law Chu, you're really wronging me. It's not that I'm preventing you from seeing the boss, it's that the boss won't allow it." Wang Mingliang was also at a loss for words. He had already reported this matter to Chiu Penghai, but the boss completely ignored it and said nothing, so he could only keep dragging it out. Stop lying. Tianyu Real Estate is such a big company. Why would they need my husband's hundreds of thousands in compensation? I bet you, the heartless contractor, embezzled it all. Zhang Xiaohong didn't back down an inch and immediately launched into a tirade. "Zhang Xiaohong, don't push your luck. Chu Gong should know who Wang Mingliang, am. You think I'm afraid of bringing so many people here? I've done nothing wrong, and if you don't believe me, then lay down your cards and I'll take the blame." Wang Mingliang was completely enraged. He'd been a contractor for over 20 years and believed he'd never mistreated his men. How dare Zhang Xiaohong accuse him of being heartless? Zhang Xiaohong wanted to retort, but Bian Kai stopped her. "Aunt Zhang, let me ask about the situation first. Please calm down." Zhang Xiaohong shut her mouth. She could only resort to verbal sparring. To truly resolve the issue, she needed Bian Kai. Wang Mingliang, is it? I have no other demands. Take us to see Chiu Penghai, the boss of Tianyu Real Estate. Since you can't make the decision, then find someone who can. That's my bottom line. You either agree, or we'll see what you're capable of. Wang Mingliang frowned immediately upon hearing this. He could tell that the young man speaking was the leader of this group. The other party's request to see the boss, Chiu Penghai, wasn't unreasonable. After all, the young man clearly had status, and seeing the boss wasn't inappropriate. Moreover, Chiu Penghai was currently in the temporary office building at the construction site. Seeing him would be easy. But the problem was that Chiu Penghai had previously given him orders not to see anyone today, and had locked himself in his office, even skipping breakfast. Seeing Wang Mingliang hesitate, Bian Kai's expression turned grim. This contractor didn't seem foolish. Couldn't he see the situation? Tung Hu alone could handle his construction workers. Why was he hesitating? Besides, it was just seeing the boss. Was it really necessary for him to make things so difficult? Young man, it's not that I don't want to take you to see the boss, but the boss has given a strict order. No one is seeing anyone today. You look like someone of status. There's no need to make things difficult for a mere employee like me. Seeing Bian Kai's grim expression, Wang Mingliang felt uneasy. But for the sake of this job, he still wanted to make one last effort. Make things difficult for you? If you hadn't gone too far, would I be bothering you? Fifth brother, subdue them all. Bian Kai didn't bother with further delay and directly ordered the action. His bodyguards rushed into the group of construction workers. Fujitora even extended his movements, appearing in front of Wang Mingliang almost instantly. With a single grab, he lifted the short, stout Wang Mingliang up. As for the other construction workers, although they tried to resist, their strength was far inferior, and they were all subdued in less than half a minute. Everyone was knocked to the ground, pinned down by the bodyguards, unable to move. Boss, let's talk this out. I'll take you to see the boss right away. Wang Mingliang was completely dumbfounded. He hadn't expected the opponent to be so strong. They'd taken down his entire group in a single exchange. Most importantly, the giant man who had lifted him up with one hand was terrifying. Although he was only 165 centimeters tall, he weighed over 200 kilograms. This guy had lifted him up effortlessly. How much strength did that take? You won't learn your lesson until you see the coffin. Wouldn't it have been better if you'd done this sooner? Fifth brother, put him down. Upon hearing this, Fujitora immediately released his grip and returned to Bian Kai's side. Wang Mingliang crashed to the ground with a thud, howling in pain. All right, stop howling. Hurry up and lead the way to your boss. Any more dawdling, and I'll fall again. Upon hearing Bian Kai's words, Wang Mingliang, ignoring his pain, sat up abruptly and eagerly led the way towards the office building. Zhang Xiuhong followed behind Bian Kai, her eyes shining. This young man was exactly what she wanted. Rich, handsome, and powerful. Practically the best son-in-law in the world. Chu Ling, at this moment, was incredibly moved. She hadn't expected Bian Kai to be so devoted to her, even resorting to force. Although she had saved Bian Kai's life, he had already helped her secure a 500,000 yuan commission, a sum more than enough to repay that debt. But why was Bian Kai still helping her so diligently? Could it be that Mr. Kai had feelings for her? But didn't he have a beautiful lawyer by his side? Could it be that they weren't in that kind of relationship? Wouldn't that mean there was a real possibility between her and Mr. Kai? Chu Ling was a very traditional girl. She hoped her future husband would only love her. Initially, she had some suspicions about Bian Kai and Lu Xueqing's relationship, so she interpreted everything Bian Kai did for her as repaying a debt of gratitude. But now, it seemed to have gone beyond simply repaying a debt of gratitude. If Mr. Kai and that beautiful lawyer had no relationship, then she really could be with him. Bian Kai was naturally unaware of Chu Ling's wild thoughts. Led by Wang Mingliang, the group quickly arrived at the third floor of the office building. The bodyguards following behind lined up in a row, hands behind their backs, standing on either side of the third floor corridor. Tung Hu and Li Xiang followed closely behind Bian Kai. Knock, knock, knock. Wang Mingliang knocked on Chiu Penghai's office door, but there was no response. He knocked twice more, but still no one answered. At this moment, Bian Kai, Tung Hu, and Li Xiang exchanged glances. With their hearing, which had evolved to the peak of the martial master level, they could hear the movement inside. There was definitely someone inside, but the person seemed to be struggling frantically, and the sounds of pain clearly reached their ears. Fifth brother. Upon hearing this, Tung Hu kicked open the office door, but the scene before them stunned everyone. What was going on? There was a person hanging inside the office. Yes, a person. Because this was a temporary office building, it was all constructed with steel frames, and there was no special decoration, so much of the steel structure was exposed. At this moment, a rope about the thickness of a thumb was hanging from a steel beam on the roof, and hanging from the rope was a middle-aged man, about 175 centimeters tall, slightly overweight, and around 50 years old. Holy crap! Bian Kai, after a moment of stunned silence, reacted instantly, even faster than Tung Hu and Li Xiang. He leaped to the man's side, grabbed his legs, and lifted him up. Thump! Chiu Penghai fell directly to the ground, the fall jolting him awake from his near-conscious state due to oxygen deprivation. You, who are you? Chiu Penghai asked in a hoarse voice. Boss, what happened to you? Why did you try to hang yourself? Wang Mingliang, also recovering from his shock, rushed to Chiu Penghai's side, helping him up while asking in confusion. Why hang yourself? Heh, Tianyu is finished, and so am I. There's no chance of turning things around in this life. What's the point of living? Chiu Penghai's words confused everyone. How could a thriving real estate company just collapse like that? There was still work going on at the construction site, not far away. Given the future development potential of Qingnan District, Tianyu Real Estate must have made a fortune this time. Did Chiu Penghai think he was making too much and lose interest in life? Boss, what's going on? Please don't do anything rash. What will happen to our brothers in the afterlife if you die? Wang Mingliang was almost in tears. Chiu Penghai couldn't die. Who would he ask to pay the construction fees and wages for his brothers? I'm barely managing to take care of myself right now. What else can I do? All right, let's not talk about that. Who are these people? Chiu Penghai had finally recovered completely. He had contacted many real estate companies these past few days, but no one was willing to take over the land, and the bank kept calling him demanding repayment. His subordinates reported to him this morning that the building materials they needed would only last one day. They needed to purchase more as soon as possible, or work would have to stop. These successive blows finally broke him completely, and he planned to hang himself to end it all. Fortunately, Bian Kai and the others arrived in time and saved him. Boss, they were brought by Zhang Xiuhong. They're here for Chu Gong's workers' compensation. Seeing his boss ask, Wang Mingliang quickly replied, "No money, I have no money. Damn it, everyone's asking me for money. Where am I supposed to get it? Get out. All of you get out." To everyone's surprise, Wang Mingliang only mentioned the compensation for Chu Gong, and Xiu Penghai went completely berserk, baring his teeth and claws as he tried to drive everyone out. Wang Mingliang was completely bewildered by his boss. What was going on? Bian Kai seemed to have figured something out, but Xiu Penghai was beyond communication, so he had Fujitora restrain him. "Why are you holding me like this? Just kill me already." Fujitora firmly restrained Xiu Penghai's hands behind his back, but Xiu Penghai continued to roar like a madman. Chu Ling, terrified, hid behind Bian Kai. It seemed that only behind this man was she truly safe. Quiet. Bian Kai couldn't take the noise anymore and unleashed his aura. With a roar, the scene immediately fell silent. Li Xiang and Fujitora looked at Bian Kai with some confusion. The aura Bian Kai had just unleashed seemed almost equal to theirs. This little brother of theirs was truly a hidden talent. He possessed such strength at such a young age. The reason Bian Kai could unleash such a powerful aura was mainly due to his spiritual power reaching the Grandmaster level. His actual strength was still inferior to his two older brothers. Even so, it stunned everyone present. Xiu Penghai was initially stunned by the shout, then lowered his head in despair, his voice slightly hoarse as he said, "I can't help with Chu Gong's matter. Don't waste your energy. I don't have a single penny now. I owe billions in the bank. The cash flow is broken. All I have now is my worthless life. Take it if you want." Xiu Penghai stopped speaking after that, his head bowed, as if he were truly dead. Wang Mingliang's face turned deathly pale upon hearing his words. What did his boss mean? The cash flow was broken? What would happen to his and his brother's wages? Bian Kai's purpose in coming today was actually just to help Chu Ling's father get compensation, but now, hearing this situation, he suddenly perked up. The cash flow is broken? Bian Kai's biggest fear was his cash flow. The money in his Supreme Black Card was practically inexhaustible. Since that was the case, he might as well just buy Tianyu Company. Thinking this, a smile appeared on Bian Kai's face. He hadn't expected to be able to spend money here. It was a pleasant surprise. Fifth brother, quickly helped Boss Chiu to the side to sit down. I want to have a good talk with him. Upon hearing this, Tung Hu quickly released his grip on Xiu Penghai's arms and helped him to a chair. Boss Chiu, tell me what's going on? Your Tianyu Company's strength, if not in the top 3 in Zhongbei City, is definitely in the top 5. Why is your cash flow breaking down? Tell me, and maybe I can help you through this difficult time. Seeing Xiu Penghai sit down, Bian Kai pulled up a chair next to him and sat down as well. Upon hearing Bian Kai's words, a glimmer of light finally appeared in Xiu Penghai's eyes. He sized up the young man who looked to be only about 20 years old. He didn't know where Bian Kai got the courage to say he could help him solve his current problem, which was a complete dead end. However, since Bian Kai wanted to hear it, Xiu Penghai had no reason to hide anything. This matter had been weighing on his mind for a long time, and it wouldn't hurt to confide in a stranger. With that in mind, Xiu Penghai explained the situation of the land in detail. After listening, Bian Kai finally understood why Mr. Chiu had committed suicide. It turned out he'd been ruined by the urban planning of Zhongbei City. This had turned a once highly sought-after plot of land into worthless wasteland, with Xiu Penghai not only investing his entire fortune, but also taking out billions in bank loans. Furthermore, due to the broken cash flow, even this already ruined land couldn't be developed and would soon be abandoned due to a shortage of building materials. Mr. Chiu, I want to buy your land. Don't worry about the price. I guarantee you won't lose money. Bian Kai didn't ask any further questions and directly stated his idea. How could he miss such a good opportunity to spend money? Investing in real industry might not cost as much as investing in the internet industry now, but Bian Kai, adhering to the principle of spending every penny possible, absolutely couldn't let this opportunity pass him by. Xiu Penghai stared blankly at Bian Kai, unable to react for a moment. Everyone was avoiding this prime piece of land, and Bian Kai actually wanted to buy it? Was he kidding him? May I ask your name, young man? Is what you just said true? Hee, Mr. Chiu, what I, Bian Kai, say is always true. If you don't believe me, we can sign the land transfer contract right now. As for the price, you spent nearly 40 billion when you bought this land, and then invested several billion more later. How about I round it up for you, 50 billion? How about you sell this land to me? After Bian Kai finished speaking, Xiu Penghai jumped up from his chair, staring at him in disbelief. He wondered if he had misheard. This young man named Bian Kai was actually going to spend 50 billion to buy a piece of wasteland? Mr. Kai, no need for that much, really no need for that much. I, Xiu Penghai, have been in business my whole life, and I've always been honest and fair. This land isn't worth that much right now. Because a large chemical plant is going to be built nearby, even if it's developed, it can only sell for around 10 billion at most. You can go with this price. 50 billion? I, old Xiu, would be losing money. Bian Kai hadn't expected this real estate tycoon to be so reasonable. He'd offered 50 billion, and the tycoon had immediately slashed it down to 10 billion. Based on this conscience alone, Bian Kai found him far more agreeable than the Bai family father and son. 50 billion was nothing to him, so he said, Mr. Chiu, don't feel cheated. Maybe the Zhongbei City plan will be changed back. Then I might even make a profit on the 50 billion. Just don't be envious then. Alright, it's settled. I'll have my lawyer come over right away. 50 billion. Let's sign the transfer contract immediately. Xiu Penghai was completely impressed by Bian Kai's boldness. This was a gamble. If the Zhongbei City plan didn't change, he would definitely lose everything. However, neither of them expected that Bian Kai's unintentional action would directly ruin the Bai family's plan, especially given Bian Kai's nature. He didn't care whether the land would be profitable or not. He just wanted to spend money. The Bai family thinking of buying the land from him was a pipe dream. In fact, this was a scheme orchestrated by the Bai family using their network of connections. The planning for Zhongbei City was never changed from beginning to end. The land in Xiu Penghai's possession is surrounded by a planned commercial district. In reality, the Bai family wasn't specifically targeting Tianyu real estate. The Bai family was targeting all real estate companies that bought the land. Qiu Penghai just happened to be unlucky and caught the wave. This is a common tactic used by the Bai family to get something for nothing. This scheme began during the land auction. On the day of the land auction, the staff from Bai's company involved in the auction didn't get lost. As the top-ranked real estate company in Zhongbei City, how could Bai Qingshan's employees make such a basic mistake? This was merely an excuse. The staff deliberately arrived late to allow other real estate companies to bid for the land first. Once another real estate company won the bid, the entire plan would officially begin. First, Bai Qingshan would proactively approach Qiu Penghai, offering a higher price to acquire the land. Qiu Penghai would then assume that Bai Qingshan was furious about the staff's mistake and was therefore offering a higher price. Bai Qingshan's influence and status in Zhongbei City, which allowed him to recognize the land's value and even pay a higher price, fully demonstrated its immense worth. This also reflected Bai Qingshan's confidence. He wasn't worried that Qiu Penghai would actually sell it to him for 40 billion. No real estate company owner who can build a business to this level is a fool. They certainly wouldn't relinquish their hard-earned profits. Subsequently, Bai Qingshan, in conjunction with all the bank staff and supervisors Qiu Penghai could contact, began spreading rumors, cutting off all of Qiu Penghai's communication channels. Don't doubt Bai Qingshan's ability to do this. With the Bai family's absolute power in Zhongbei City, it wouldn't be difficult. In fact, over the years, almost all the major profitable projects have been monopolized by the Bai family. Other real estate companies have only taken on the scraps that the Bai family didn't want. Therefore, no matter where Qiu Penghai inquired, he received the same result. This so-called prime land had already been abandoned by Zhongbei City. Not only will no commercial district be built around it, but a large chemical plant will also be constructed, turning this prime piece of land into a complete wasteland. Of course, this news couldn't be kept from everyone. Someone would eventually find out the truth. But Bai Qingshan didn't care, as long as Qiu Penghai believed the news was true. What? Wasn't he afraid other real estate companies would secretly tell Qiu Penghai? Who would dare? No one dared risk offending the Bai family by telling Qiu Penghai the truth. What would become of their standing in Zhongbei City? Besides, it's better to sacrifice a friend than oneself. Other real estate companies would love for Tianyu real estate to go bankrupt, so they could cede more profits. Although the Bai family would definitely take the lion's share, the remaining scraps would still be enough for them to enjoy. Bai Qingshan's grasp of the situation and human nature was almost perfect. The prime piece of land Qiu Penghai had just acquired, through the overt and covert machinations of numerous forces, had been transformed into a wasteland. This led banks to significantly lower their valuation of Qiu Penghai's land, directly causing them to cut off, or even withdraw loans. Tianyu real estate was completely dragged down by this series of conspiracies, not only suffering a broken cash flow, but also owing banks billions of yuan. Once the land's value has completely plummeted, Bai Qingshan will righteously come to Qiu Penghai's rescue. As the leading real estate developer in Zhongbei City, Bai Qingshan has a magnanimous heart and naturally cannot bear to see a thriving company like Tianyu real estate go bankrupt. Although the land was no longer valuable, Bai Qingshan resolutely took on this hot potato for the sake of Zhongbei City's development. Of course, the price he paid wouldn't be the original auction price. Bai Qingshan's expectation was a maximum of 7 billion yuan. This, of course, depended on Qiu Penghai's level of stress. If Mr. Qiu couldn't withstand the pressure, perhaps he could acquire it for less money. If the Bai family had participated in the auction, even if they ultimately won the land, the final price they offered would certainly not have been lower than Qiu Penghai's. People don't care about such things when faced with profit. At the official auction, all real estate developers would be attracted to this land. At that time, no one would care whether the Bai family was the leading real estate developer in Zhongbei City. They would definitely raise their paddles and bid even if there was only a sliver of hope. Bai Qingshan's plan can be said to have considered every possible possibility. If nothing unexpected happened, this prime piece of land would fall into the Bai family's hands at an extremely low price. Once developed, its value could increase tenfold, and the Bai group would definitely reach a new level. But then Bian Kai, an unexpected character, appeared. This guy didn't care how much the land was actually worth or whether it would be profitable. Therefore, Bai Qingshan's meticulously planned strategy was ruined by Bian Kai. About an hour later, a male lawyer, probably in his 30s, appeared in Qiu Penghai's office. When Bian Kai called Lu Xiueqing, the senior student was extremely busy and couldn't come over, so she sent a newly hired lawyer to handle the matter. It was basically just a matter of drafting a land transfer contract according to a template. The subject matter and price had already been agreed upon by both parties, and no other business was involved. Most importantly, Qiu Penghai felt physically and mentally exhausted after this incident and had no desire to continue running Tianyu real estate. Therefore, he simply sold the entire company to Bian Kai as a package deal. Bian Kai originally wanted to add more money, but Qiu Penghai absolutely refused, so he had to give up in the end. And so, the original land transfer contract was transformed into a company transfer contract. Bian Kai bought the land and Tianyu real estate together. This made things even simpler. Bian Kai was very experienced at signing company transfer contracts, and with the male lawyer as a witness, he quickly completed the signing. With the transfer of the massive 50 billion yuan, the transaction was finally finished. Looking at the notification text message on his phone, Qiu Penghai felt like he was in a dream. Just moments ago, he had been driven to desperation and contemplated suicide. Unexpectedly, in just over an hour, things had not only taken a dramatic turn, but he had also not only recovered his principal, but also made a small profit. Chu Ling and her daughter, Wang Mingliang, and the others who witnessed the entire process were dumbfounded. They had severely underestimated Bian Kai's power. The row of sports cars and bodyguards were merely the tip of the iceberg of Bian Kai's wealth. Of everyone present, only Li Xiang and Teng who remained calm. Bian Kai was the kind of person who spent trillions to buy frog, so buying a real estate company for a few hundred billion was just basic stuff for him. Zhang Xiaohong, who had initially thought her daughter was good enough for Bian Kai, felt a little uneasy. How much money had Bian Kai's master left him? 5 billion was spent so easily, and on a completely useless piece of wasteland no less. Only someone with trillions in assets could be so reckless. Qiu Penghai, tears welling in his eyes, grasped Bian Kai's hand, and said, "Mr. Kai, I don't know how to thank you. You saved my life. Please do me the honor of hosting you at the Blue Ocean Hotel tonight. Everyone here today is welcome to attend. You may not appreciate this meal, but it's a small token of my appreciation. Please, you must come." Upon hearing Chiu Penghai mention the Blue Ocean Hotel, Bian Kai suddenly remembered that he had originally intended to buy that hotel, but had forgotten about it after drinking too much. Since Mr. Chiu had extended such a sincere invitation, it wouldn't be appropriate to refuse. So he nodded in agreement, deciding to buy the hotel while he was at it. Seeing Bian Kai nod in agreement, Chiu Penghai's face lit up with excitement, and he added, "After dinner, let's go to Emperor KTV to relax. I've been so bored lately. Mr. Kai, you can invite your friends along. I'll pay for everything." Bian Kai was completely won over by Chiu Penghai's enthusiasm. Fine, let's go. He could also invite his 5 older brothers, Ho Qianyue, 2 senior classmates, Lu Tong, Xiang Tian, Dai Tianlu, and others. Unbeknownst to him, so many people had gathered around Bian Kai. This was a good opportunity for everyone to get together. They all worked under him, so it wouldn't be a case of strangers not recognizing each other. After agreeing to this, Bian Kai also acquired a triumphant residence property from Tianyu Real Estate, allocating 10 billion yuan for subsequent real estate development. The land was bought, so let's continue development. Whether it would be profitable or not, Bian Kai didn't know, but continued development would definitely cost money, which was naturally something he was happy to see. The male lawyer was left at Tianyu Real Estate by Bian Kai to oversee the use of funds by the Triumph household. Everything else remained the same. Not only that, to accelerate the spending spree, Bian Kai reverted to his previous tactics, tripling the salaries of all staff. All staff refers to everyone, including support staff, sales personnel, construction workers, and so on. Bian Kai originally intended to provide standard staff meals as well, but after tallying the numbers, he discovered that Tianyu Real Estate, although only a medium-sized real estate company, had over 500 employees, including construction workers. After inquiring about the capacity of the Shuefu Hotel, he had to abandon this idea. With Tianyu Real Estate involved, the Shuefu Hotel would be completely idle. However, the notoriously generous CEO, Kai, wasn't about to give up so easily. Therefore, he set his sights on the Blue Ocean Hotel. Tonight, he was determined to acquire this hotel, not for any other reason than to ensure his men could enjoy good food. Chiu Penghai, posing as the former owner, posted the news in the company's large group chat, firstly to inform all employees that the owner of Tianyu Real Estate had changed. Then, the new boss announced the salary adjustments. Bian Kai had initially thought there would be a staff meeting. However, he learned from Chiu Penghai that Tianyu Real Estate's headquarters was located in Zhongbei City, in a 16-story office building. This was just a temporary office space built for construction convenience, so most employees were in the city center. To hold a staff meeting, they would have to go back. Fortunately, Tianyu Real Estate had its own company group chat, so Chiu Penghai directly announced the news there. This news exploded like a bombshell in the company group chat. Everyone went crazy. Whether or not there was a change of boss didn't matter to them. It was just a matter of who they worked for. It was all the same. But a tripled salary? This salary level was extremely rare, not only in Zhongbei City, but even in the entire Xia Kingdom. Even a regular cleaning lady at Tianyu headquarters earns tens of thousands of yuan a month, not to mention the already high-paid full-time employees. Everyone in the group was clamoring to add Bian Kai, the new boss, to the group chat. Bian Kai, of course, didn't mind. They were all his employees, so let him join. As soon as Bian Kai joined, the message count jumped to 99 plus. Someone started it, and the group's messages all became, "A warm welcome to Boss Kai. Thank you, Boss Kai. Thank you, Tianyu. May Tianyu's future be even brighter." Bian Kai was also fired up by his employees' enthusiasm, but he didn't know what to say. He simply sent a random, "roll up your sleeves and get to work" emoji. Bian Kai really just sent a random emoji, but unexpectedly, that one sentence immediately ignited a frenzy among all the employees. The unified message then became, "For Boss Kai, for Tianyu, we will dedicate ourselves to the cause until our dying breath. Our loyalty will never waver." Chiu Penghai shook his head helplessly at this situation. Bian Kai's methods of winning people over were simply amazing. He hadn't even met him in person, and the loyalty was off the charts. However, only someone as wealthy and powerful as Bian Kai can use such methods. Anyone else who tries this will go bankrupt sooner or later. While others could only express their respect and gratitude to Bian Kai through text messages on their screens, Wang Mingliang was the only Tianyu employee present. This guy had completely forgotten how he had been subdued by Fujitora earlier. He was so excited, he almost knelt before Bian Kai. His monthly salary was already over 30,000, but this time it tripled, almost reaching 100,000. That means Wang Mingliang was now earning $1 million annual salary. How could he not be excited? In Xia country, and even on the entire Blue Star, those who could earn $1 million annual salary were extremely rare. "Mr. Kai, I, Wang Mingliang, swear to follow you for life, to serve you to the bitter end." Wang Mingliang pounded his chest, making a loud thud, vowing to be loyal to Bian Kai. Bian Kai's eyelids twitched, and he quickly said, all right, I know. You go ahead and do your work. Now that we have money, we need to speed up the construction." "Okay, Mr. Kai. I'm going right now. I'm going for a run," Wang Mingliang said, jogging downstairs. He needed to quickly tell the construction workers the good news, especially the migrant workers, whose wages had tripled. After Wang Mingliang left, the matter was considered settled. Since Tianyu Real Estate was now under Bian Kai's name, the compensation for Chu Ling's father naturally fell to him. Bian Kai didn't waste any words, directly transferring 10 million from the Kaixin account to Chu Ling. He originally wanted to transfer 100 million directly, but as soon as he mentioned this idea, not only did Chu Ling refuse, but even Zhang Xiuhong didn't dare to accept it. Based on Chu Zhongxing's monthly salary and the degree of his disability, the compensation should normally be between 1 and 2 million yuan. But how could Bian Kai possibly afford such a small amount? After much haggling, they finally settled on 10 million yuan. This scene left Chiu Penghai, who was watching, dumbfounded. What a boss Bian Kai was. While others tried every means to lower the compensation, he, on the other hand, haggled with Chu Ling and her daughter for over 10 minutes just to get a larger sum. It was almost noon, and Xiao Penghai needed to rush to deal with bank loan issues, so he left early. Before leaving, he arranged to have dinner with Bian Kai that evening. He would be waiting for Bian Kai at the Blue Ocean Hotel at 7 p.m. sharp. Zhang Xiaohong also needed to go back to the hospital to buy lunch for Chu Zhongxing, so Bian Kai sent a car to take her home. Chu Ling actually wanted to go back with them, but Zhang Xiaohong pulled her aside and gave her a good scolding, subtly hinting that she should hurry up and win Bian Kai over. He was a one-of-a-kind catch, absolutely unique in the world. Chu Ling blushed at her mother's words, but strangely, she didn't argue. Instead, she shyly glanced at Bian Kai, who was chatting with Tung Hu. In the end, only Zhang Xiaohong went back to the hospital, while Chu Ling rode in Bian Kai's car back to Zhongbei City. In the car, Chu Ling either kept her head down or looked out the window, avoiding Bian Kai's gaze. This left the straightforward Bian Kai somewhat bewildered. What was wrong with her? Chu Ling, are you going back to school, or do you have other plans? They were about to enter the city, and Bian Kai planned to return to the villa because he had just received a call from Dodo's mother, Jiang Lanying. He had previously asked Xiang Tian to arrange for a driver to pick up the mother and child from the Jiangnan Provincial Central Hospital and bring them to Zhongbei City. They were already at the Tianyu Mingdi residential complex, so Bian Kai needed to go back and meet with Jiang Lanying. Chu Ling was lost in thought when Bian Kai asked her this, and her mind went blank. She didn't quite hear what he said and replied directly, Mr. Kai, if you're sincere, then I'm willing to. Chu Ling realized something was wrong and quickly stopped, glancing somewhat embarrassedly at the puzzled Bian Kai. She then immediately lowered her head and said in a barely audible voice, I'll go back to school. Although Bian Kai was a little suspicious of Chu Ling's behavior, he didn't press the matter. He told Tung Hu, who was driving, to go to Zhongbei University first. As for the convoy following behind, since the matter was resolved, Bian Kai let them go back first. Shenfeng ride-hailing service has finally completed its software upgrade, now offering a wide variety of luxury cars and supercars at unbelievably low prices. A Porsche 911 starts at just 50 yuan, with an additional 10 yuan per kilometer thereafter. This means that people who don't usually have the opportunity to ride in supercars can now enjoy a 3-kilometer ride for only 50 yuan. If you're willing to spend 100 yuan, it's an absolutely incredible value. However, Shenfeng hasn't been actively promoting this upgrade, at Bian Kai's request, reasoning that good products will sell themselves. Therefore, as of now, the platform remains relatively calm. Upon entering the city, the convoy split into two directions. The remaining supercars all returned to the Shenfeng company's headquarters, while only Bian Kai's Rolls-Royce Phantom and Li Xiang's Bugatti headed towards North China University. Today is August 30th, and the start of the new semester is the day after tomorrow. Many students have already returned to campus, and the once quiet campus is now bustling with activity. A Rolls-Royce Phantom and a Bugatti Veyron approached from a distance and eventually stopped at the entrance of North China University. The sudden appearance of these two luxury cars immediately attracted the students' attention. Although there were many wealthy second-generation students on campus, most of them drove cars of the BBA, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi level, with a few wealthy individuals owning supercars worth a few million. But these luxury cars, costing tens or even hundreds of millions, were unprecedented, not only in the past, but also in the entire history of North China University. Therefore, the commotion they caused was predictable. After both cars came to a stop, the Phantom's door opened, and a tall, stunningly beautiful girl stepped out. She shyly said goodbye to the car, then closed the door and entered the campus, running back to her dorm. The Rolls-Royce and Bugatti didn't stop, they sped away. Damn it, isn't that the car that picked up Chu the campus belle this morning? We're doomed. She's clearly smitten. I don't understand. You still don't understand? The thought of Chu the campus belle doing business with another man. Ugh, kill me. The boys screamed in agony, swearing they'd never forgive the man in the car. The girls, however, were focused on the half-face of the man that peeked out the moment the door opened. Hey, did you guys notice? That guy inside looked kind of familiar when the door opened. Where have I seen him before? Now you know, he's really something. He looks young and handsome from the side. I'm sure I've seen him before. There aren't many handsome guys in our school. Think carefully, you'll definitely recognize him. How can you be so sure the handsome guy in the car is from our school? What if he's from outside? Well, it's all possible, but he does look very familiar. Wait, I suddenly remembered someone. Think carefully, doesn't that guy in the car look like Bian Kai, the physics department's campus heartthrob? Bian Kai? That physics major, the guy who's always chasing after the school beauty Qian and I? Impossible. I heard he's really poor. How could he afford such a luxury car? Really? But it looks too much like him. I have a photographic memory for every one of the school's heartthrobs. I still have a feeling that the person in the car is Bian Kai. No need to feel. That person is definitely Bian Kai. But he really is a poor loser. The reason he can afford such an expensive car is probably because of this app. A group of girls were chattering around the school gate. One of them held up her phone, which displayed the Shenfeng ride-hailing app. Huh? What kind of ride-hailing app is this? I've never seen it before. Holy crap, it has Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Maseratis, even Koenigseggs. Is this a supercar club or a ride-hailing app? The girls were stunned speechless upon seeing the luxury cars on the app. But that wasn't the most shocking part. They were completely dumbfounded when they saw the fares below each car. A Ferrari 488 starting at 50 yuan, a Lamborghini Aventador starting at 80 yuan, a stretched Maybach, worth tens of millions, starting at 100 yuan? This ride-hailing company must have mislabeled the prices, one girl thought. Maybe they forgot 2 zeros? The other girls quickly downloaded the app and tried calling a Porsche 911. To their surprise, the order was successful. Less than a minute later, the ride-hailing company called, asking for the girl's exact location, and the driver said he'd arrive in about 10 minutes. Everyone wanted to see if it really was a Porsche 911. If it was, it would be a huge sensation. About 7 minutes later, a sleek supercar pulled up beside the crowd. The window rolled down, and a driver in a suit and white gloves leaned out to ask, "Excuse me, is this Ms. Zhou? Your phone number ends in 2314. The woman who had just placed the order replied somewhat dazedly, "Yes, it's me. I called this car. Is this a Porsche 911? Hello, Ms. Zhou. This is Shenfeng ride-hailing at your service. Yes, this is the latest Porsche 911. Welcome aboard. The driver got out of the car, opened the passenger door, and gestured for Ms. Zhou to get in. The woman, whose appearance was only average, got in with some disbelief. Vroom vroom vroom. The supercar roared to life, and the Porsche 911 launched itself forward, disappearing from sight in no time. Holy crap, it's real? Shenfeng ride-hailing is amazing. Zhou Xian's 911 only costs 60 yuan for the starting fare. I have to get one too, to experience the speed of a supercar. Soon, students gathered at the school gate downloaded the Shenfeng ride-hailing app and eagerly searched for their favorite luxury cars to book. For them, a fare of around 100 yuan was affordable. Not only that, but news of Shenfeng ride-hailing's ability to hail supercars also spread within North China University, and the platform's order volume surged instantly. Meanwhile, Bian Kai, who was riding in a Rolls-Royce, was accused of using Shenfeng ride-hailing to seduce Chu, the campus belle. Many male students were filled with remorse. A few hundred yuan for a luxury car, and he'd won over Chu. It was blatant fraud. And so, numerous posts appeared on the campus forum of North China University, the main content of which was that Bian Kai, a physics major, was shameless and despicable, using a luxury car he booked online to deceive an innocent female student, leading to her tragic death. Bian Kai and Chu Ling, the parties involved, were not accustomed to browsing the campus forum and were therefore unaware of this incident, causing it to escalate rapidly at North China University. Bian Kai inexplicably became a universally condemned scumbag. At Tianyumingdi, Bian Kai met Dodo and her child who had rushed from the hospital. Zhang Leining looked much more energetic than during her previous live stream. She was probably in her early 30s. Perhaps due to the strain of working while Dodo was sick, she looked somewhat thin, but her looks weren't bad. In her current state, she'd barely score a 70 out of 100. Perhaps after a period of rest and recovery, she would become even more beautiful. In the eyes of ordinary people, she would definitely be considered a beauty. Most importantly, Zhang Leining exuded the unique charm of a married woman. Of course, this appearance wouldn't catch Bian Kai's eye. Surrounded by various beautiful women, this guy's standards had become quite discerning. However, Teng Hu's gaze started to change after seeing Zhang Leining. Among his brothers, besides the still young Bian Kai and Ho Qianyue, whose marriages were not his own choice, he was the only one unmarried. All his older brothers were married with children. Previously, because Chang Dun was in trouble, Teng Hu himself didn't have much money, so he hadn't considered this matter. But now that he had enough money, he naturally started planning his own life's major event. He was immediately attracted to the seemingly frail Zhang Leining. Although Zhang Leining had been married and had children, who can say for sure what happens when it comes to love at first sight? There are those who don't care about anything else. Coincidentally, Fujitora was that type. Dodo's face was still pale. After all, he had just undergone a bone marrow transplant and needed a long period of rest to recover. The little guy looked timid and pitiful, not saying a word, just blinking his big eyes at Bian Kai and his group of strangers. Teng Hu wanted to get closer to the little guy, but his fierce appearance almost frightened Dodo into tears, so he had to give up. Dodo, on the other hand, was very close to Bian Kai, probably because Zhang Leining had told him before that Bian Kai was his savior. The little guy might not understand the concept of a savior, but he knew that with Bian Kai's help, he wasn't in as much pain, so his eyes were filled with gratitude when he looked at Bian Kai, and naturally, he was closer to him. Bian Kai chose a large single-level apartment for the mother and son, 280 square meters, the smallest of the 15 apartments, since it was enough space for just the two of them. Zhang Leining had never lived in such a luxurious house before. Although buying one would be easy with her current wealth, she still didn't consider that 100 million yuan to be hers, so she rarely touched it. After expressing their gratitude, the three Bian brothers helped Zhang Leining move her things into the new house. Teng Hu, in particular, was very busy, even though Bian Kai and Li Xiang hadn't done much work. Bian Kai was a straightforward man, while Li Xiang was married. Seeing Teng Hu's attentiveness, he understood that his fifth brother had taken a liking to Zhang Leining. However, he didn't expose him, only whispering it to Bian Kai. Upon hearing this, Bian Kai's eyes widened. No wonder his fifth brother was so diligent. He had an ulterior motive. During the live stream, the paper Zhang Leining held up said that Dodo's father had run away because he couldn't afford the exorbitant medical bills. Since that's the case, Bian Kai definitely has to support his fifth brother. It seems he needs to create more opportunities for them in the future. They both live in this neighborhood, so these opportunities are readily available. After finishing their chores, it was already past 1 p.m., well past lunchtime. Bian Kai suggested grabbing something to eat outside, but Zhang Leining insisted on showing off her cooking skills. After all, she was going to be Bian Kai's housekeeper, and cooking was a basic requirement. The refrigerator in Bian Kai's villa had ready-made ingredients. Zhang Leining skillfully prepared 6 dishes and a soup in half an hour, not only efficiently, but also remarkably delicious. Even Bian Kai, with his advanced culinary skills, was full of praise. He learned that Zhang Leining had worked as a chef in a 5-star hotel before quitting her job, which explained her excellent cooking. The meal lasted until after 2 p.m. Just as Teng Hu was helping Zhang Leining clear the dishes, Bian Kai's phone rang. It was Chu Tianhe, the former owner of the Xuefu Hotel, calling. Apparently, the old man had officially retired after receiving 5 billion yuan and was calling Bian Kai to say goodbye. He planned to take his wife on a world tour in a few days. Bian Kai congratulated him first, then chatted casually. Their conversation drifted to the development of the Qingmen district. Bian Kai recounted Qiu Penghai's ordeal and casually mentioned his purchase of Tianyu real estate. Chu Tianhe was quite surprised after listening and said, "Wait a minute, Mr. Kai. I know about the land Tianyu real estate acquired. It's a true land king. According to what I know, Zhongbei City hasn't changed its plans, and the commercial development project near that land is about to start." Mr. Chu, is your information reliable? Bian Kai was bewildered by Chu Tianhe's words. How could the two of them have different information? Qiu Penghai had searched through many channels to inquire about the situation. The result was always the same. That land king had been abandoned and become wasteland. How could Chu Tianhe say that Zhongbei City's plans hadn't changed? Mr. Kai, tell me about the situation in more detail. I feel this tactic is very familiar. Upon hearing this, Bian Kai explained the situation in detail again. He only mentioned Bai Qingshan's series of operations in passing, without deliberately emphasizing them. But while he spoke without intention, Chu Tianhe, a seasoned veteran of Zhongbei City, immediately grasped the key information. Wow, Mr. Kai, you've really struck gold. On the other end of the phone, Chu Tianhe couldn't help but admire Bian Kai's luck. This windfall was simply too good to pass up. Bai Qingshan's meticulously planned scheme had unexpectedly been reaped by Bian Kai. A windfall. Brother Chu, what makes you say that? Is it related to the Bai family? Hearing Chu Tianhe's words, Bian Kai had a vague feeling that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. Old Chu, used to own a hotel. One advantage of owning a hotel is that you can entertain guests from all over the world, so I know far more information than you do. Although the Bai family doesn't often use this method, they have used it before, with one purpose, to get something for nothing. Then, Chu Tianhe recounted Bai Qingshan's methods to Bian Kai without missing a beat. Bian Kai grew increasingly alarmed as he listened. Was this the darkness of the business world? For profit, they would do anything. Phew, Brother Chu, this is truly an eye-opener. The Bai family really lives up to its reputation as the #1 real estate company in Zhongbei City. Their methods of manipulating events are truly. Bian Kai was momentarily speechless, unable to find the words to describe Bai Qingshan's cunning. This operation completely disregarded the fate that awaited Qiu Penghai. If he hadn't intervened, the outcome would undoubtedly have been Qiu Penghai's family ruined, and Bai Qingshan driving a truck loaded with money. Brother, the business world is a battlefield without gunpowder. Don't think that only battlefields kill people. The business world kills too, and it can be even more despairing. However, brother, I need to remind you that you've snatched Bai's business, and Bai Qingshan definitely won't let it go easily. Be careful of the underhanded tactics he might use. Even if your family is wealthy and you don't care about such tactics, be wary of him resorting to desperate measures. He might threaten your safety and the safety of those around you. Over the years, Bai Qingshan has used these methods to suppress competitors, but Bai's is too big. In most cases, those competitors either compromise or are eliminated without anyone noticing. Brother, you must be careful. If there's anything you're unsure about, call me. With my connections in Zhongbei City, I can still help you. Bian Kai readily accepted Chu Tianhe's well-intentioned reminder, but whether he would actually confront him was uncertain. In truth, he now possessed the strength to rival the Bai family. If the Bai family tried to suppress him through business means, Bian Kai didn't take it seriously at all. So-called business warfare was nothing more than various tactics used by businessmen to gain greater profits. Its essence was profit-seeking. But Bian Kai was different. All the businesses he bought had only one purpose, to spend money. He didn't care whether they made money or not. Fundamentally, Bian Kai's goals were different from other businessmen. Therefore, those so-called business wars were completely ineffective against him. As for martial prowess, well, Bian Kai wasn't bragging. In Zhongbei City, defeating him militarily was no easy feat. Not to mention his own peak martial master level strength. Any one of his brothers was someone the Bai family couldn't contend with. The only real problem was that the Bai family had now hired Hungan's security company, and Hungan's boss, Zhongju, possessed strength comparable to his elder brother. If it really comes to a fight to the death, Zhongju will definitely be a huge problem. He just doesn't know how strong his eldest brother is now. He had immediately told his brothers about the method for advancing to the Grandmaster realm. Although they were curious how Bian Kai knew such a secret, they didn't ask too many questions, but instead began to focus on cultivating his mental strength. However, during a casual chat with his fifth brother, Fujitora, it seemed that traditional methods of cultivating mental strength were ineffective. Bian Kai was also curious about what these traditional methods were. Fujitora then gave a brief explanation, which boiled down to one word: endurance. It involves stimulating one's potential through prolonged periods without rest to improve mental strength. However, this method is extremely damaging to the body, and in severe cases, can even shorten one's lifespan. This is why few martial artists who don't know the secret of advancing to the Grandmaster realm attempt to improve their mental strength. System, is there a way to quickly increase mental strength? Bian Kai asked in his mind. Currently, the only one capable of resisting Zhongju was his eldest brother, Zhuangyu, so he had to improve his brother's strength as soon as possible. There are two main ways to quickly increase mental strength. The first is to place oneself in absolute danger, using the pressure of death to directly break through. The second is to be continuously pressured by even stronger mental energy, thereby stimulating one's own potential to increase mental strength. Bian Kai understood the general concept of increasing mental strength from these two methods. Ultimately, whether it was placing oneself in danger or being pressured by greater mental energy, both methods, like staying up all night, were about stimulating one's own potential to achieve the goal of increasing mental strength. Bian Kai would definitely not let his older brothers use the first method. It was too dangerous and could easily lead to death. As for the second method, he could try it. His own mental strength had already reached the Grandmaster level, definitely higher than his brothers. If he unleashed his full mental pressure, he might be able to create enough mental pressure on his brothers, thereby increasing their mental strength. Wait a minute, Bian Kai thought, recalling his mental attribute panel. He'd been too rushed and hadn't had time to check the changes. Host, Bian Kai. Funds, unlimited. Lifespan, 61 years 96 days. Skill points, 595. Constitution, 20337. Normal human 10. Mental strength, 1000. Normal human 10. Martial artist level, peak martial master. Skills, advanced combat, advanced chef. Looking at the changes in the attribute panel, Bian Kai was puzzled. Something was wrong. He'd only spent 50 billion. So how did his lifespan and skill points increase by 580? After making a series of phone calls, he realized that some of the arrangements he'd made were starting to take effect. All the companies had begun spending sprees. The extra 8 billion was the result of the various companies spending over the past few days. Dai Tianlu had spent the most on acquiring Douyin shares, a whopping 6 billion. Even so, he only acquired less than 1% of Douyin shares. This project had enormous potential. Furthermore, Xiang Tian acquired several ride-hailing companies in Zhongbei City, spending less than 1 billion yuan, with the remainder being miscellaneous expenses. These included employee salaries and daily procurement of supplies. If Lutong's investment project were to officially launch, the cost would be astronomical. Thinking of this, Bian Kai felt immensely gratified. Indeed, many hands make light work. The feeling of having someone help him spend money was simply comfortable. With 595 skill points, Bian Kai wanted to continue improving his mental strength so he could better assist his brothers. However, the system unexpectedly prompted him that he must first reach the Grandmaster level of martial arts before he could continue improving his mental strength, which had already reached its limit. Frustrated, Bian Kai had no choice but to add all his skill points to his physique, increasing it from 20,337 to 20932, nearly 2,100 times the level of an average person. With Fujitora's help, Jiang Lanying quickly cleaned the kitchen. Bian Kai had originally wanted her to go back and take care of Dodo. However, Jiang Lanying was a restless person. Seeing the huge pile of clothes Bian Kai had left in the living room, she also started tidying up. She took all the clothes and shoes out of their packaging and sorted them by season and style, placing them in the walk-in closet. Bian Kai had nothing to do in the afternoon, so he called Zhuang Yu and asked him to bring his two other brothers to the villa. Although Zhuang Yu was extremely busy, he knew his brother must have something important to do, so he brought Xiao Jun and Pang Long to Tianyu Mansion. After the three arrived, Bian Kai led them to the yoga room on the 6th floor. At his request, Zhuang Yu and the others sat in a circle on the floor. Everyone was a little confused, wondering what their younger brother wanted to do. Big brother, what level of strength have you reached? After everyone was seated, Bian Kai went directly to the center of the circle and sat down, then inquired about his older brother Zhuang Yu's strength. Strength? I haven't cultivated much lately due to company matters, so it's still about 8,100 times stronger, Zhuang Yu replied somewhat puzzled, wondering why Bian Kai was asking this question. No, big brother, I mean, what level has your mental strength reached? Oh, after you talked about the key to advancing to Grandmaster last time, I haven't slept a wink. But my own strength is too high. Just 2 days of intense practice won't have any effect. To see any real results, I'd need at least half a month. Zhuang Yu was also quite helpless about this. Actually, he wasn't the only one with this problem. His other brothers were in the same situation. Improving mental strength wasn't something that could be done overnight. The pace had to be controlled, and one couldn't rush it. Otherwise, it would cause irreversible and enormous damage to the body. Brothers, I know a way to quickly enhance your spiritual power by being pressured by a higher level of spiritual power, thus stimulating your potential. A higher level of spiritual power? Isn't that Grandmaster level spiritual power? But where can we find such a powerful figure? We don't know a single martial artist above the Grandmaster level, and all information about them is classified as top secret by the Xia Kingdom. We can't find anything. Haha, eldest brother, we don't have any Grandmaster level martial artists, but we do have someone with Grandmaster level spiritual power. Grandmaster level spiritual power. The 5 brothers were taken aback by Bian Kai's words, all looking at him in the middle, their eyes filled with doubt. Haha, it's me, Bian Kai said, pushing his spiritual power to its limit. A massive aura erupted, but it didn't spread out. Instead, he controlled it, enveloping only his 5 brothers. Zhuang Yu and the others felt the immense pressure of the spiritual energy, and their expressions changed drastically. They instinctively tried to use their own aura to resist, but sensing their brother's actions, Bian Kai quickly said, 5 brothers, don't resist. Feel this pressure, don't get distracted. This cultivation method, where resistance under duress renders it ineffective, and with all 5 brothers unleashing their combined aura, Bian Kai was unsure if he could withstand it, given their significantly higher strength. Upon hearing this, Zhuang Yu and the others quickly stopped what they were doing and, as Bian Kai instructed, focused intently on sensing the pressure. Suddenly, they discovered their mental energy was increasing at an unprecedented rate, filling them with joy. While Bian Kai was assisting his brothers in their cultivation, at the headquarters of the Bai Group in Zhongbei City, a 58-story office building, in Bai Qingshan's office on the top floor, a glamorous female secretary was reporting to Bai Qingshan on tomorrow's operation. The report was somewhat intense, and the secretary's eyes were slightly glazed, but she persisted in her work. That's good. This arrangement is comprehensive. Today is a joyous occasion. Tell Fatty Jean that we're going to the Emperor KTV tonight to celebrate properly. Have him make the arrangements. After receiving the order, the secretary walked unsteadily out of the office, only returning to normal once she was out of Bai Qingshan's sight. Sigh, acting is so tiring, even more so than doing business. The female secretary complained as she took out her phone and called Jin Mingzhu, the fat man, to tell him about Bai Qingshan's request to spend the evening at the Emperor KTV and to ask him to make the arrangements in advance. Upon hearing that his powerful backer was coming to his territory, the fat man quickly ordered his men to prepare the largest and most luxurious private room, and also to contact a smuggler to bring over a few pretty female college students. He knew Bai Qingshan had a taste for this kind of thing, and he was determined to make sure everything was arranged perfectly. In room 403 of dormitory building number 3 at the North China Conservatory of Music, Bu Kersen was packing her things. She had just returned from home, bringing back a bunch of local specialties to share with her roommates. Bian Kai's purchase of 25 apartments in Tianyu earned her a commission of over 15 million yuan. Originally, it was only supposed to be a little over 10 million yuan, but the sales manager surnamed Huang made a fool of himself by insisting on betting with Bian Kai, resulting in her receiving an extra 5 million yuan. With this huge sum, she also bought a 120 square meter apartment in Tianyu for less than 3 million yuan. She absolutely loved the environment of the complex, and since she was familiar with it, even though it was a bit expensive, it was definitely worth the price. After completing the transfer of ownership, Bu Kersen returned to her hometown to bring her parents to live with her. However, her parents were unwilling to leave the home they had lived in for decades. Bu Kersen felt helpless and could only leave them 1 million yuan to renovate their house and buy some new furniture and appliances. After settling things at home, she returned to school, partly because the new semester was approaching and partly because she planned to pack her things and move into her newly bought apartment. Before leaving, her mother gave her a bunch of local specialties from her hometown. Bu Kersen divided these into 3 portions, intending to share them with her 3 roommates. Just as she was packing, the dormitory door opened, and a stunningly beautiful girl, whose looks were in no way inferior to Bukurson's, walked in, carrying a small, expensive LV handbag. Shue, you're back too. How was your summer vacation? Recognizing her roommate, Bukurson quickly greeted her with a smile and took the handbag from her. Xin, my summer vacation was absolutely thrilling. You'd never guess what happened to me. The girl said with a slightly exaggerated expression. What's up? You found a boyfriend. Shaw, what boyfriend? Any man who catches my eye, Pei Chushue's eye, probably hasn't even been born yet. I'm rich. That's right. Bukurson's roommate is Pei Chushue, whose live streaming account is First Encounter with Snow, nicknamed Freebie. She's been live streaming for over 2 years, attracting countless fans with her stunning looks and sexy figure. However, because she never asks for the patron's contact information, she's gradually lost popularity, and her viewership has plummeted. Recently, things have improved a bit. The wealthy patron Everything's Floating Clouds first opened her account as an emperor in her livestream, then went on a spending spree, gifting her a whopping 100 million, making her a fortune and boosting her popularity. Even now, she still feels a bit unreal. She understands what Everything's Floating Clouds meant by gifting her. After all, every streamer knows the unspoken rules of live streaming platforms. But Pei Chushue isn't that kind of person. The internet is the internet. It can't be mixed with reality. No matter what this wealthy patron's intentions are, she won't give in. She'll just return the money. However, this generous spender has never visited her live stream since he showered her with gifts, nor has he spoken to her. Many of her thank you messages to him have gone unanswered. Pei Chushue knew her older brother was definitely angry, but she still wouldn't compromise. This concerned her lifelong happiness. What if everything is fleeting turned out to be a balding, greasy middle-aged man? She'd rather return the money. However, after this super rich man reappeared the following night and spent another 1 billion, he never appeared on the Wawa platform again. At the time, Pei Chushue had been following the crowd, watching the big spender's performance on a secondary account. Of the 1 billion he spent that night, 100 million was donated to a child with leukemia. The rest was given to female streamers. She didn't know what kind of taste this big spender had. Apart from a few passable ones, the others were just average, very average, far inferior to Pei Chushue. Therefore, she guessed this was the big spender's revenge, so she sent a bunch of private messages. But again, it was like throwing stones into the sea. The big spender didn't even look at them. Not only that, but after that, he never appeared again, and she couldn't contact him at all. What she didn't know was that this big spender wasn't offline. He simply had a bigger spending goal. Sending gifts was too tiring and didn't cost much, so he bought the entire Frog platform. Another important reason was that for the past few nights, 2 people had been sneaking into the big spender's villa, taking turns each night, keeping him busy until very late and leaving him no time to watch the livestream. Pei Chushue was naturally unaware of all this. Since the big spender had disappeared, she had no choice but to accept the money. Like Bukurson, Pei Chushue immediately bought a house. However, compared to Bukurson, she had more funds, so Pei Chushue bought a 200 square meter apartment in Tianyumingdi for less than 10 million yuan. These past few days, she went to dance classes during the day and streamed at night. Of course, she wasn't streaming for money anymore. It was simply because she genuinely loved performing. Upon hearing Pei Chushue's claim of striking it rich, Bukurson immediately became gossipy. The two stopped tidying up and started chatting on the bed. Pei Chushue first recounted how a wealthy patron had tipped her over 100 million yuan during her livestream, leaving Bukurson speechless. That was unbelievable. Did that mean Shue was now worth tens of millions? Bukurson had initially thought her 15 million yuan commission was already a lot, but she hadn't realized how lucrative live streaming was, especially for a beauty like Shue. Her earning power was incredible. After Pei Chushue finished her story, Bukurson shared her amazing summer job experience. What? Xin, you said you made over 10 million yuan as a real estate agent? Really? Yes, it's true. A very handsome guy bought 25 houses, all villas and large apartments, spending over 1 billion yuan in total. So my commission is over 10 million yuan. When Bukurson mentioned Bian Kai, her pretty face flushed, and she became incredibly beautiful, leaving Pei Chushue stunned. This girl was just too beautiful. Wow. But Xin, you seem to have a crush on that guy. TSK. Little girl, you've fallen for him. Oh, Shue, what are you saying? Bian Kai's status is obviously not simple. He's way out of my league. Oh, that guy's name is Bian Kai? Xin, you're so insecure. Any man would be attracted to such a beautiful girl. You have to be bolder. We'll see. We haven't graduated yet. There's no rush. Why not? Just as the two were chatting animatedly, the dormitory door opened again, and the other 2 girls from room 403 returned to school early. Luyu, Yunlei, you're back too. Come on in. Let's chat about how our summer vacation was. And while we're at it, let's give our little sweetheart a little pep talk. She's got a crush on him. Pei Chushue saw the 2 come in and quickly invited them to chat. Just then, Yunlei's phone rang. She glanced at it. The screen showed Brother Jean. You guys keep chatting, I'll take this call. Yunlei said, leaving the dorm. After answering the phone, she said in a slightly coquettish tone, Hey, Brother Jean, why did you suddenly call me? I thought you'd forgotten about me. Haha, how could I forget my little Lele? I need to talk to you about something. I'm bringing some classmates to Emperor KTV tonight. Some big shots are coming. The photos of my roommates you showed me last time were really nice. Those 3 are all very pretty. Want them to come and have some fun. A big shot? How big of a shot? Yunlei asked curiously. Her 3 roommates were her trump cards. She wouldn't let them out so easily. Hehe, you should know who my backer is, right? The chairman is coming over today and specifically asked me to find some female college students. You're the highest quality smuggler from Zhongbei Conservatory of Music. Of course we need you. Chairman Bai Qingshan. Really? Of course it's real. So, are you still reluctant to let your 3 roommates out? Don't worry, as long as you can bring them, the fee will definitely satisfy you. Brother Jean, what are you saying? Since Chairman Bai is here in person, I can finally use my trump card that I've kept hidden for 3 years. But, Brother Jean, this fee, one price, 5 million. I'll pay you half first, and the rest after it's done. Send me your account number in a bit, and I'll transfer the money to you immediately. Yunlei's breathing quickened upon hearing this price. She had been a smuggler for 3 years, starting in the industry through a friend's introduction when she first entered university. Taking advantage of the abundance of beautiful girls at the Central Conservatory of Music, Yunlei's human trafficking business flourished. She secretly introduced numerous female college students to powerful figures, operating very discreetly. Few knew her true profession. Some might wonder how Yunlei could hide herself so well. The method wasn't complicated, though it did come at a price. Yunlei divided the girls at the Central Conservatory of Music into 2 categories. Those who didn't mind such activities, requiring careful observation, and those who were vain, competitive, average-looking, and not wealthy. These were generally easy to hook. Of course, in other schools, an average-looking girl at the Central Conservatory of Music would at least be considered a class beauty. However, with so many beautiful girls here, class beauties were essentially at the bottom of the social hierarchy. As long as Yunlei offered a price that appealed to these girls, they wouldn't hesitate to go out and do business with them. For money, they'd change boyfriends countless times, honing their skills to perfection. Compared to clingy boyfriends, this type actually better suits their needs. Business transactions, payment, clear pricing, less hassle, and generally, they earn significantly more than they would from a boyfriend. Another type is the truly beautiful girl. These girls are highly sought after, but generally difficult to hook. They're either aloof like Bu Kursin and Pei Chushua, rarely dating, or they're always surrounded by wealthy and powerful boyfriends, easy targets for exploitation. Yunlei generally avoids girls with such boyfriends because she doesn't know their background and might offend someone she can't afford to mess with. Therefore, Yunlei focuses most of her attention on aloof girls. She actively approaches them to build relationships, occasionally gifting them cosmetics. Once a relationship is established, she provides these girls photos to wealthy men with specific needs. After the men have made their selections, Yunlei uses the excuse of going out for entertainment to take the target girls to places like the Emperor KTV. Then she would drug the girls' drinks, and to make it more realistic and avoid detection, Yunlei would also drink the drugged beverages. Once the girls lost consciousness, the big shots could begin their business. Of course, because Yunlei herself had also drunk the beverages, she often ended up getting herself involved as well. However, this didn't matter to her. Afterwards, she would not only receive a referral fee, but also a substantial service fee. Although these services took a while, the referral fees were usually very high, typically tens or hundreds of thousands of yuan, sometimes even reaching 500,000 yuan. Compared to that, the small amount she put in was nothing, especially since they weren't without additional compensation. As for the drug girls, they would generally keep it a secret afterward, as it concerned their reputation. How could they face others if word got out? Of course, there were also girls with strong personalities, but the big shots could almost always handle them. Yunlei had been doing this for 3 years without any problems. Of course, this was also related to her own involvement. It's simple. She was a victim just like the other girls, and generally appeared even more desperate, even contemplating suicide. This forced the other girls to comfort her, naturally preventing them from suspecting her. In fact, this was a little scheme by Yunlei. While comforting her, the girls were also comforting themselves. Sometimes, before she had even finished her act, the girls had already come to terms with it. Therefore, Yunlei, the mastermind behind it all, almost perfectly concealed herself. In the eyes of the other girls, she remained the generous, hospitable best friend. This nepotism smuggling business allowed Yunlei to earn at least 10 million yuan over the past 3 years, and the 3 fattest victims in her smuggling ring were her 3 roommates. Bu Kursin, Pei Chushua, and Lu Yu. These 3 occupied 3 of the top 10 beauties at the Central Conservatory of Music, all self-righteous and aloof. Yunlei herself wasn't bad-looking either, scoring around 85 points in terms of appearance, but compared to her 3 roommates, she fell short. Bu Kursin and Pei Chushua were pretty straightforward. They hadn't had boyfriends from their freshman to junior year, remaining virgins. As for Lu Yu, although she was already married, she'd only had one boyfriend, a rich second-generation heir. However, that boyfriend was an absolute scumbag, juggling over a dozen women and being incredibly promiscuous. Once, Lu Yu left something at that rich heir's house and went back to retrieve it, only to witness firsthand what a so-called multi-person activity looked like. The proud and aloof Lu Yu couldn't accept this reality and even contemplated suicide. During that time, her 3 roommates took turns watching over her to prevent any accidents. Of course, Bu Kursin and Pei Chushua were genuinely worried about Lu Yu, while Yunlei was simply afraid her goo, a type of venomous insect, would die. Although the goo wasn't as pure anymore, its stunning beauty still made it a valuable asset. Yunlei had initially valued her 3 roommates at 1 million, a figure that had decreased somewhat after Lu Yu got a boyfriend, but she would never sell them for less than 800,000. She just hadn't expected Brother Jean to ask for a staggering 5 million yuan, which was almost half of what she'd earned over the years. At this moment, Yunlei wanted to thank the school for assigning her to a dormitory with these 3 incredibly beautiful girls. Actually, Fatty Jean was also quite helpless. The reason he offered 5 million yuan to get Yunlei to bring Pei Chushua and the others was actually due to Bian Kai. Bai Qingshan's 50th birthday was just over 10 days away. His prized Qianda jade watch, worth over 20 million yuan, had been stolen by Bian Kai. He'd been searching for a replacement gift for days, but where could he find something truly good in such a short time? Just as he was fretting over this, Bai Qingshan's secretary called, saying the chairman wanted to come over that evening for some entertainment and asked him to prepare a few female college students. This was a golden opportunity. As Bai Qingshan's most loyal henchman, Jean Pongzi naturally knew the old man's tastes, so he began searching for pretty female college students. However, after searching high and low, he couldn't find anyone who truly caught his eye. Bai Qingshan was a seasoned salesman, with very discerning eyes. Therefore, he needed to find college students with peak looks, temperament, and figure, preferably still virgins, that would absolutely satisfy Bai Qingshan. Then, even if Jean Pongzi's birthday gift was a bit ordinary, he wouldn't be blamed, and the matter would be resolved. After searching high and low, they finally found Yunlei. Not many people knew Yunlei had any trump cards up her sleeve, but Jean Pongzi was one of them. Although he'd only seen photos, those 3 cards were truly top tier. To secure the deal, Jean Pongzi offered Yunlei a whopping 5 million. If this transaction went through, it would break the record for human traffickers. Most wouldn't even reach that price. Yunlei had been holding on to these 3 cards for this very moment. Why would she refuse? She'd sacrificed so much over the years to maintain the facade of a close friendship. After arranging a time with Jean Pongzi, Yunlei returned to her dorm and joined the others in their conversation. When she heard that Bu Kersin and Pei Chuxue had both made a fortune during the summer vacation, Bu Kersin earning over 15 million from selling a house, and Pei Chuxue even more extravagantly, earning 50 million from a live stream, Yunlei was green with envy. She'd worked tirelessly as a human trafficker for 3 years, risking her life countless times, and only earned a little over 10 million yuan after all that effort. And yet, someone else had caught up with, and even surpassed, her in just one summer. No way. Tonight, she had to get all 3 of them to the Emperor KTV. She had to get that 5 million yuan, and she also had to ask Jean Ponzi for a bigger commission. She couldn't possibly surpass Pei Chuxue. 50 million yuan was far too much. But she had to surpass Bu Kersin, otherwise Yunlei felt she'd been cheated. When she heard that Bu Kersin and Pei Chuxue had already bought apartments and were planning to move out, an idea suddenly struck her. Xin, Xue, how about we get together tonight? First, to congratulate you on making so much money, and second, to say a proper goodbye. After 3 years together, it'll just be me and Lu Yu in the dorm. It's hard to say goodbye after all this time, Sai. Yunlei's eyes reddened as she spoke, and Bu Kersin and the others were also moved by her emotions, their eyes welling up with tears. Lei, don't say that. It's not like we won't see each other again. We still have a year before graduation. Although Xin and I don't live in the dorm, we still see each other every day during class. Yes, Lei, senior year courses aren't plentiful to begin with, and many people choose this time to go out and seek opportunities. Saying goodbye will be the biggest topic of the coming year. Bu Kersin chimed in, trying to comfort her. Lu Yu remained silent. Ever since being manipulated by her rich boyfriend, she had become rather taciturn. I understand. It's just that the separation came so suddenly, and I'm still a little hard to accept. Okay, don't try to persuade me. I'm fine. I'll book a private room at the Blue Ocean Hotel right now. After dinner, we'll find somewhere to relax. After all, we'll have less and less time together in the future. Let's have a good get-together before school starts, and before you move out. Yunlei, seeing the time was right, quickly revealed her plan. She didn't directly mention the Emperor KTV, but used the Blue Ocean Hotel as a transition to avoid alerting them. A transitional approach was safer. As long as you find an excuse to get them to drink a little during dinner, just a light buzz, they'll generally be happy to go to Emperor KTV. After all, they're all music students, and going to KTV to sing and relax is perfectly normal. Lei, you don't need to treat us. Let Xin and I come this time. We're not short of money now. You've already treated us enough. Pei Chuxue quickly intervened when she saw Yunlei about to treat again. With her current wealth, a meal was nothing. Bu Kersin chimed in. How can that be? This is my idea to send you off. How can I let you and Xin pay? Don't worry, you won't bankrupt me. It's settled then. We'll have a good meal at the Blue Ocean Hotel at 6 p.m. Yunlei made the final decision, and Pei Chuxue and Bu Kersin couldn't say anything more. They continued chatting while packing their things, with Yunlei and Lu Yu helping them. Inside Bian Kai's villa at Tianyu Mansion, Zhuang Yu and the others cultivated for over 2 hours under Bian Kai's mental pressure before it ended. It wasn't that they didn't want to continue, but they had reached their limit. The fact that they could endure 2 hours of Grandmaster-level mental pressure without actively resisting was already a testament to their superior strength. An ordinary person would likely collapse instantly. How are you feeling, brothers? Has there been a significant improvement? Bian Kai quickly inquired about the results after withdrawing his mental pressure. He didn't want to waste his time without any effect. Zhuang Yu sensed the intensity of his mental power, and a look of joy slowly appeared on his face. It had increased, and significantly so, comparable to the results of a year of cultivation. He felt that if he could do it 4 or 5 more times, his mental power should break through to the Grandmaster level. Once he could also improve his physique to the Grandmaster level, he would become a true Grandmaster level martial artist. Zhuang Yu had thought his life would end like this, but Bian Kai had given him such a big surprise. He couldn't help but say to Bian Kai with some emotion, Youngest brother, I don't know what to say. Becoming sworn brothers with you is probably the best decision we've ever made. I feel like I'm not far from becoming a Grandmaster level martial artist. Really, big brother? No need for formalities between brothers. Your increased strength benefits me too, doesn't it? How are the other brothers? Xiao Jun and the others have also improved significantly, but there's still some distance from the Grandmaster realm. Zhuang Yu's current main focus is on enhancing his mental power, while the other brothers are simultaneously improving both their mental power and physique. As for Bian Kai's cultivation path, well, just spend money. The group rested briefly and agreed to return at the same time tomorrow afternoon to face Bian Kai's mental pressure. It was almost 6 o'clock in the afternoon. September was approaching, and the days were getting shorter. The sun was almost gone, and the eastern continent of Blue Star was about to experience a dark night. Underscore. After finishing their cultivation, the 5 brothers returned to their respective villas. They were all sweaty from the training and needed to shower and change. They agreed to meet at the entrance of Tianyu Mansion at 6:30 p.m. and then go to the Blue Ocean Hotel together. Bian Kai quickly showered and then started making calls, first to Lu Xueqing. Hey, senior, don't work overtime tonight. Qiu Penghai has booked a private room at the Blue Ocean Hotel. I was thinking of having everyone get together. It'll also be convenient for your future work. Oh, and invite Senior Shi and Lu Tong to come too. Recently, Kaixin Capital, which Lu Tong was in charge of, had completed all the opening procedures, and the Kaixin account was ready. Bian Kai's 10 trillion yuan was already in place. Next, Lu Tong's task was to spend money like crazy, acquiring all the internet stocks on the market. As for other industries, Bian Kai hadn't made any moves for the time being, mainly to avoid causing volatility in the stock market, at the urging of Lu Xueqing and others. Bian Kai was only doing this to spend money, not to cause chaos in the financial market. Even so, 10 trillion yuan entering the internet sector would have a huge impact, but it wouldn't cause financial turmoil in Xia country. Upon hearing this, Lu Xueqing said, "At least you still have some conscience," and then hung up the phone. Of the people working under Bian Kai, excluding the 5 older brothers, only Lu Xueqing and Shi Yingxiu dared to be disrespectful to him. After all, their relationship with Bian Kai was different from others. These past few nights, the two of them had been frequently visiting Bian Kai's villa, and they were very proactive, causing considerable damage to Balenciaga. Afterwards, Bian Kai called Xiang Tian, Ho Qinhue, and Dai Tianlu. Dai Tianlu had finished dealing with the Big Fish matter, and the integration work between Frog and Big Fish had begun. Since he was the only one whose work location wasn't in Zhongbei City, Bian Kai had called him beforehand. Dai Tianlu was currently on the high-speed train and would arrive in about half an hour. Besides these people, the heads of Shuefu Hotel and Xinguang Digital City were also on the invitation list. Both were professional managers handpicked by Lu Xueqing, possessing top-notch management skills. It's said that Zhou Fong, the owner of Huaqin Driving School, has been found. The old man is being tortured to the point of madness. The discussion about this matter on Frog and Big Fish continues unabated and shows signs of escalating. Although Huang Xing survived after being rescued, he will be confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. While he is still in the hospital, an investigation into him has begun, and the investigation is uncovering more and more serious issues. Many female students from Zhongbei City have come forward accusing Huang Xing of sexually assaulting them during his time as an instructor. While not as serious as Lu Tong's case, a conviction for indecent assault would be entirely justified. Bian Kai told Xiang Tian that after Huaqin completely collapses, he plans to buy the land and build an office building there as the future headquarters of Kaixin Capital. His companies, including Shuefu Hotel, Xinguang Digital City, Xingfan, formed by the merger of Frog and Big Fish, and Shenfeng Ride-Hailing, will all be transferred to Kaixin Capital. The main reason is that Bian Kai really doesn't want to sign anything anymore. It's too troublesome, involves waiting for procedures, and is extremely time-consuming. Moreover, this situation will become increasingly common as Bian Kai acquires more and more companies. Bian Kai's desired outcome is that he only needs to buy, and then he won't be involved anymore. Therefore, at Shi Yingxiu's suggestion, all the companies will be placed under Kaixin Capital for systematic management. Kaixin Capital will control these companies, while Bian Kai only needs to control Kaixin Capital. This way, when Bian Kai buys a company or invests in a project, after payment, he can simply hand it over to Kaixin Capital for processing. He won't need to handle any procedures or signatures. After making a round of phone calls, it was almost 6:30. Bian Kai got dressed, told Zhang Lanying that he wouldn't be home for dinner, and then went to the underground parking garage to get his Volkswagen Venom. There were over a dozen luxury cars parked in the underground garage. Bian Kai wanted to drive them all and experience the thrill. Perhaps this was the joy of the wealthy, a joy most people couldn't comprehend. The other 5 brothers also set off in their own cars, speeding to the entrance of the Blue Ocean Hotel. The doorman standing guard was practically staring in disbelief. What kind of car is that in the lead one? Its design is so cool. The doorman only recognized the Lamborghini logo, but knew nothing about this particular car. His ignorance didn't mean the lobby manager was unaware. This was a Lamborghini Veneno worth 50 million. Rumor had it that only one existed in the entire Zhongbei City, displayed at a previous auto show, and later bought by a mysterious tycoon. This car was incredibly rare, not just in China, but globally. Its presence here meant that the mysterious tycoon had arrived. This was a major event. The lobby manager ran towards the parking lot, while simultaneously calling the owner of the Blue Ocean Hotel. "Hey Mr. Doe, poison's at our hotel." Doe Tianwei was momentarily bewildered by the lobby manager's words. Poison? Someone's poisoning his hotel? Who dares to do that? Poison? Someone's poisoning it? You'd better call the police right now. Hearing Doe Tianwei's roar, the lobby manager finally realized he'd misspoke, and quickly added, "Mr. Doe, it's not the poison, it's the car, a Lamborghini Veneno." "Damn it, where are you?" "I'm coming right now." "The parking lot, right?" "Okay." Doe Tianwei hung up and rushed downstairs. He'd been wanting to meet this recently risen, mysterious tycoon for a while now. The entire high society of Zhongbei City had been inquiring about Bian Kai's identity. But the information everyone got was basically the same. This mysterious tycoon seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, and apart from knowing that he had acquired some companies, there was basically nothing else to be found out. One thing is certain. This young tycoon, named Bian Kai, is a force to be reckoned with, possessing a net worth of at least hundreds of billions. Bian Kai's acquisition of Frog and Big Fish was conducted very discreetly. Furthermore, these 2 internet companies aren't located in Zhongbei City, so the city's elite have no idea that Bian Kai's wealth far exceeds hundreds of billions. Doe Tianwei rushed downstairs, just as the lobby manager was greeting Bian Kai at the hotel entrance, where Chiu Penghai and his entourage were already waiting. "Mr. Kai! Mr. Kai!" 2 voices rang out simultaneously. One was naturally from the waiting Chiu Penghai, and the other from Doe Tianwei. Bian Kai was momentarily stunned by the simultaneous greetings from both men. He recognized Chiu Penghai, but who was the other one? "Please, Mr. Kai, that's Mr. Doe Tianwei, the owner of our Blue Ocean Hotel." The lobby manager, a master of reading people, noticed Bian Kai's confusion and quickly explained. "The owner of the Blue Ocean Hotel? What a coincidence." Bian Kai would gladly accept any business that comes knocking on his door. Bian Kai greeted Chiu Penghai first, telling him to wait for the others, and then began chatting with Doe Tianwei. "Mr. Doe, it's an honor to meet you. I've long heard that the Blue Ocean Hotel is the only 5-star hotel in Zhongbei City. Your strength is truly remarkable." "Mr. Kai, please don't say that. Compared to you, I'm just a small fry." "Oh, compared to me? It seems Mr. Doe knows a bit about me. Just hearsay, just hearsay. Please don't mind, Mr. Kai. It's all right, it's all right. There has indeed been a lot of news about me in Zhongbei City lately. I know, but since you know some things about me, Mr. Doe, you must know a bit about me, so shall I be frank?" Doe Tianwei was somewhat taken aback by Bian Kai's words. He did know some things, but very limited ones, mostly things from the auto show. Frankly? What should he say? "Mr. Kai, please speak frankly, I'm all ears." "It's like this. Actually, I had dinner here a few days ago. I thought the Blue Ocean Hotel was really impressive, grand and prestigious, and the food was excellent. It's just that I drank too much that time and didn't get to meet you, Mr. Do. Oh dear, what are you saying? My bad, my bad. So you've been here before, Mr. Kai? It was my oversight. I didn't personally greet you. Do Tianwei genuinely hadn't expected Bian Kai to have visited before. He usually worked in his office and rarely went downstairs. Department heads would report to his secretary, who would then compile the information and report back to him. If the lobby manager hadn't called him, he probably wouldn't have known a big shot had come to his hotel. Hearing Do Tianwei apologize, Bian Kai waved his hand and said, "It won't affect anything. It won't affect anything. I'm only saying this for one purpose, Mr. Do. I want to buy your Blue Ocean Hotel. I don't know if you're willing to part with it. The price is negotiable." Huh? Do Tianwei was completely bewildered by Bian Kai's words. Why was he suddenly going to buy his hotel? What kind of operation was this? Mr. Kai, you need to give me a moment. Bian Kai wasn't in a hurry. Anyway, not everyone had arrived yet. He could wait a while. Do Tianwei was in a real dilemma. He didn't want to sell his hotel. It was his life's work. But Bian Kai's identity was too mysterious, and he didn't want to offend him. He ultimately decided to hear Mr. Kai's offer first. Mr. Kai, to be honest, your request is a bit abrupt for me, but I'd like to hear your price first. Bian Kai smiled slightly. Price? Heh, wasn't this exactly what he wanted? He didn't speak, but slowly raised 5 fingers and gently shook them. 50 billion? Do Tianwei's brows furrowed immediately. The Blue Ocean Hotel, the only 5-star hotel in Zhongbei City, was a 33-story building, complete with restaurants, accommodations, entertainment facilities, a large banquet hall, conference rooms, bars, a Western restaurant, and more. Even with further negotiation, it couldn't possibly be below 30 billion. President Kai was only willing to offer 5 billion. Was he planning to use his status to pressure him? President Do, I think you've misunderstood. It's not 5 billion. I plan to spend 50 billion to buy your Blue Ocean Hotel. How much? 50 billion? Mr. Kai, you're not joking, are you? Do Tianwei was startled by the price Bian Kai quoted. He finally understood why this young man had risen so quickly in Zhongbei City's upper echelons. He was throwing money around like it was nothing. Of course I'm not joking. Look, my lawyer's here. We can draw up the contract and transfer the money on the spot. Absolutely no backing out. As Bian Kai spoke, he saw Lu Xueqing and Shi Yingxiu approaching together, followed by Lu Tong. The 3 beautiful women shone brightly, attracting countless eyes. Senior, over here. Lu Xueqing and Shi Yingxiu found Bian Kai in the crowd and greeted him with smiles. But those smiles lasted less than a minute before Bian Kai's next words shattered their composure. Senior, did you bring your laptop? I need to draft a share transfer agreement. I plan to buy the Blue Ocean Hotel for 50 billion. Mr. Kai, didn't you tell me to come here for dinner? Why do I have to work? Huh? Lu Xueqing practically gritted her teeth as she said the last sentence. They were supposed to be having a gathering, but she had to work before even eating. Did Bian Kai think her workload wasn't heavy enough? Please calm down, senior. I did come here for dinner. Buying the hotel was something I did on the side, and it's not complicated. We can just put it under Kaishin Capital. Lu Xueqing knew Bian Kai's personality, so she could only groan helplessly and say, I didn't bring my laptop, and I didn't bring Kaishin Capital's official seal either. I'll arrange for someone to bring it over right away. It'll be quick, about half an hour. Do Tianwei, watching from the side, was speechless. He recognized these 2 women. Recently, Qingtian law firm had risen to prominence throughout Zhongbei City, its scale constantly expanding, and it was beginning to claim the status of the city's top law firm. This rapid rise, while primarily due to Bian Kai, owes much to the 2 beautiful female lawyers. Many elite lawyers are mainly attracted by the high salaries, but the 2 beautiful bosses are also very appealing. Wait a minute. Do Tianwei was just distracted by the sudden appearance of Lu Xueqing and the other 2 beautiful women, and only now does he suddenly remember that he hasn't agreed to sell the hotel to CEO Kai yet. How did contracts and official seals start being arranged all this time? Wait, Mr. Kai, I haven't decided yet. Don't rush me. Huh? Didn't you just agree? Did I remember wrong? Mr. Do, what's there to hesitate about? I believe no one can afford a higher price than me. How about I add another 5 billion? Do Tianwei was stunned by Bian Kai's words. He quickly shook his head to clear his head, and then said, Mr. Kai, the price is definitely not a problem. It far exceeds the value of the Blue Ocean Hotel itself, but, that's settled then. All right, let's not dawdle. 55 billion. Give me your bank account number. I'll transfer it to you right away. The sooner it's done, the better. My people are almost here, and I need to go eat. Do Tianwei, still somewhat dazed, gave Bian Kai his bank account number and watched Bian Kai make a series of operations on his phone. Ding. Then his phone received a text message. Your hiring account has received a transfer of 5,500,000,000 yuan, with a balance of 5,501,651,9801 yuan. That's it. Even after receiving the money, Do Tianwei was still confused. What had happened? Wasn't he just trying to make connections with Kai, the newly emerging tycoon in Zhongbei City? The normal procedure for making connections should be meeting, mutual flattery, exchanging contact information, and finally, him giving Kai a free meal. How come he suddenly sold the hotel? He definitely made a profit on this deal, without a doubt. The Blue Ocean Hotel was worth at most 30 billion yuan. 55 billion yuan would almost double that. But how this money was earned was rather inexplicable. He hadn't intended to sell the hotel, but the money was already received, and returning it wouldn't be appropriate. Returning it would not only offend CEO Kai, but people would also think he was a fool. After all, only a fool would abandon billions to engage in some ridiculous act of staying true to one's original intentions. Oh well, it's not a loss anyway. Do Tianwei could only helplessly accept this outcome. At this time, everyone around Bian Kai, except for Dai Tianlu who was still on his way, had arrived. There weren't many. Bian Kai had only invited high-level personnel, and others weren't yet qualified to participate in tonight's gathering. Those qualified to attend included Lu Xueqing and Shi Yingxiu, partners from Qingtian Law Firm, Ji Hetong, head of Shuifu Hotel, Wu Jinyang, head of Xinguang Digital City, Xiang Tian, head of Shunfeng Ride-Hailing, the 5 leaders of Changduan Security, and Ho Qianhua, Lu Tong, head of Kaishin Capital, Xiu Penghai, former boss of Tianyu Real Estate, and Dai Tianlu, head of Xingfan. After the merger of Frog and Daiyu, Bian Kai didn't tell Chiu Penghai that Zhongbei City hadn't changed the Qingmen district's planning. It wasn't that he was afraid Chiu Penghai would change his mind, but rather that there was no need to rub salt into the wound. Finally, Bian Kai brought Do Tianwei into the picture again. Ideally, Do would continue managing the Blue Ocean Hotel. Otherwise, Bian Kai would have to ask Lu Xueqing to find a professional manager, and then his senior would definitely complain about the increased workload. He could tolerate the complaints during the day, but if he wasn't allowed to tear into Balenciaga at night, it would be the death of him. Just as everyone was about to enter the private room, a clear and melodious voice suddenly rang out behind Bian Kai. Mr. Kai. Bian Kai turned around and saw Bu Kersin, whom he hadn't seen for several days. He still remembered the girl's kindness, so he smiled and said, "Oh, it's Miss Bu. I didn't expect to meet you here. Are you here for dinner?" "Yes, Mr. Kai. I didn't expect to meet you here either. Thank you for your help. It allowed me to get so much commission. Now I've bought an apartment in Tianyu Mansion." "Haha, you're welcome. I was planning to buy a house anyway. It's only right that you got your commission. And who are these ladies over there?" 3 beautiful women stood next to Bu Kersin, 2 of whom were just as beautiful as her, especially one with incredibly long, slender legs. "Oh, these are my roommates, Pei Chuxue, Lu Yu, and Yun Lei. Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. Miss Bu, would you like to join us for a meal?" Bu Kersin was tempted, but seeing that Bian Kai's group was quite large, including 3 beauties whose looks rivaled hers, she immediately dismissed the idea. "No need, Mr. Kai. We've already booked a room. Just go and eat." Bian Kai didn't try to stop her, saying, "All right then, Miss Bu should have my contact information. If you need any help, just give me a call. Shall we go now?" Yes, Mr. Kai, enjoy your meal." Bu Kersin watched Bian Kai's departing figure, her eyes filled with reluctance. She didn't know when, but this handsome young man had already entered her heart, making her somewhat nostalgic. "Hey, Xin, snap out of it. He's in the elevator. Is that Bian Kai, the guy who bought a house in Tianyu Mansion for over 1 billion yuan?" Pei Chuxue, seeing her roommate's dazed look, knew exactly what was going on. But given Lu Yu's experience, she felt she had to warn Bu Kersin. Most young, handsome, and rich men like him are womanizers. Bu Kersin shouldn't get herself involved, or she'd end up like Lu Yu, contemplating suicide. What would become of her? Bu Kersin snapped out of her daze upon hearing Pei Chuxue's words. Her pretty face flushed slightly as she said, "Yes, it's him. You don't know, President Kai is a really good person. I even got an extra 5 million yuan in commission because of him. So you've fallen for him? No way. I'm just very grateful to him. I don't like him." Pei Chuxue was speechless at Bu Kersin's shy demeanor. This girl's feelings were written all over her face, yet she still wouldn't admit it. She couldn't understand why, despite numerous handsome and wealthy male classmates pursuing Bu Kersin over the years, this girl had never reciprocated. Why was she so smitten with Bian Kai? It was truly baffling. Oh well, judging from Bu Kersin's expression, she couldn't be persuaded anytime soon. She'd just have to take it slow. The 4 of them got on the elevator. Yun Lei felt a little nervous. She had kept her head down, afraid to speak. Some of the people in that group knew her identity. As the leading figure in Zhongbei City's hotel industry, Do Tianwei was incredibly knowledgeable about the human smuggling business. Even though the Blue Ocean Hotel operated legally, he could still help make connections for customers with specific needs. And Yun Lei, as a well-known high-quality human smuggler in Zhongbei City, was naturally recognized by Do Tianwei. Fortunately, there were many people around, and she had kept her head down and remained silent. So Yun Lei felt that Mr. Do hadn't recognized her. If she were recognized, things would be really serious. Bu Kersin and Bian Kai seemed to have a good relationship, especially since Bian Kai had helped Bu Kersin before. Although she felt Bu Kersin's feelings for Bian Kai were unrequited, this girl was just too beautiful. It was hard to say whether Bian Kai had any feelings for her. And Bian Kai seemed to be of high status. Otherwise, Do Tianwei wouldn't have personally accompanied her to dinner. If Do Tianwei mentioned this to Bian Kai, her plans for tonight could very well be ruined. That was 5 million yuan, and she'd also get a good deal with by Qingshan. Her future was definitely bright. Forget it. Yun Lei decided to put those aside for now. Fortune favors the bold. For now, she could only gamble that Do Tianwei hadn't recognized her. In the top-tier private room of the Blue Ocean Hotel, Bian Kai and his group entered one after another. Actually, Chiu Penghai had booked a smaller, lower-tier room, but although the contract hadn't been signed yet, Bian Kai was now effectively the owner, so they moved to the largest room, the top-tier one. Mr. Kai, let's talk in private." Do Tianwei caught up with Mr. Kai from the back of the group and whispered something in Bian Kai's ear. Bian Kai was a little confused, but followed Do Tianwei to a corner. "Mr. Do, what's wrong?" "Mr. Kai, what's your relationship with that pretty young lady from earlier?" "Young lady? Are you referring to Bu Kersin?" "Just a normal friend, I think. She was a sales consultant when I bought a house." "What's wrong, Mr. Do? Just say what you want to say. Is there something wrong with this Bu Kersin?" Bian Kai was somewhat confused by Do Tianwei's question. "I don't know this Bu Kersin, but there's someone next to her who looks familiar. Although she's keeping her head down, I think the name is right, so I felt it was necessary to tell you, Mr. Kai." Yun Lei had planned everything carefully, and although she tried her best to conceal herself, Do Tianwei, a seasoned businessman, had excellent eyesight and memory, and ultimately recognized her. "Oh, the person next to Bu Kersin?" Bian Kai immediately became interested upon hearing this. "Yes, it's that Yun Lei. If I'm not mistaken, she's the most notorious human trafficker at the Zhongbei Conservatory of Music. I don't know if Mr. Kai knows what human traffickers do, but basically, they're pimps. And this Yun Lei is incredibly shrewd. She's been very influential in Zhongbei's upper echelons of society for the past few years, luring quite a few female students from the conservatory into her schemes. So I think you should warn your friend to be careful of Yun Lei." Upon hearing this, Bian Kai gasped. He hadn't expected the innocent and kind Bu Kersin to have such a roommate. Underscore, underscore, "Mr. Do, are you sure?" Bian Kai asked, his face filled with disbelief. "Mr. Kai, I can't speak for everything else, but in Zhongbei City, I'm quite well informed on this kind of thing." "I understand, Mr. Do. Please take your seats first. I'll make a call." Ring ring. Just as the girls in dormitory 403 sat down, Bu Kursen's phone rang. She took out her phone and saw it was Mr. Kai, who had just left, calling. Her heart pounded. Hello, Mr. Kai, what's up? Bu Kursen answered the phone, suppressing her excitement. Miss Bu, let's find a secluded place. I have something to tell you. Huh? Bu Kursen was stunned for a moment upon hearing Bian Kai's words. What did he need to say behind someone's back? Was he going to confess his feelings? So, feeling a little uneasy, she walked outside the private room. All right, Mr. Kai, please go ahead. Your roommate, Yunlei, is a human trafficker. Be very careful. Oh, right, a human trafficker is someone who pimps. I'm worried she'll sell you off. Bian Kai didn't bother beating around the bush and directly exposed Yunlei's identity. Bu Kursen was momentarily stunned. She had been expecting Bian Kai to confess his feelings to her, so why was he suddenly talking about Lei Lei? Lei Lei is a human trafficker? A pimp? How could that be? She and Yunlei had been roommates for 3 years, and their relationship had always been very good. Yunlei had even helped her many times because of her family's financial difficulties. She was genuinely grateful to this roommate. This was the brilliance of Yunlei's raising a treacherous snake strategy, perfectly concealing her true intentions, using sincerity and honesty to gain trust, and then selling the person she had completely tamed, without the victim even suspecting her. Mr. Kai, while I appreciate your help, please don't slander my roommate. No one knows Lei Lei better than me. I know exactly what kind of person she is. Bu Kursen's tone seemed tinged with anger. Bian Kai hadn't expected this reaction from the young woman. He had kindly offered a reminder, and she was accusing him of slander. Ms. Bu, I didn't mean anything by it. I was just reminding you that perhaps you are Yunlei's roommate. She won't do anything to you. Okay, that's all for now. I'm hanging up. Hearing the busy tone on the other end of the phone, Bu Kursen was somewhat at a loss. Logically, Bian Kai wouldn't have needed to deliberately call to slander Yunlei, but Yunlei was her best friend. How could he possibly harm her? Bu Kursen was now uncertain. Given Bian Kai's status, he must know something. He shouldn't be making baseless accusations. What on earth is going on? Why did things suddenly turn out like this? After struggling for a long time, recalling all the moments she had spent with Yunlei over the past 3 years, Bu Kursen ultimately chose to trust her roommate. However, a thorn had been planted by Bian Kai. Meanwhile, after hanging up the phone, Bian Kai returned to the private room. As for Bu Kursen, as an ordinary friend, all he could do was offer a reminder. Whether she listened or not was none of his concern. Inside the private room, everyone was already seated, with the central seat reserved for Bian Kai. Sitting on either side of him were his older brother Zhuang Yu and his senior, Lu Xueqing. One was Bian Kai's sworn brother, and the other was his most capable assistant, so this seating arrangement was perfectly acceptable. Next to Lu Xueqing was Shi Ingxiu, followed by Lu Tong, Xiang Tian, and others. Below Zhuang Yu were his sworn brothers, with Dou Tianwei and Xiu Penghai seated at the very end. Looking at the room full of people, Bian Kai couldn't help but sigh. In less than a week, his life had changed so much. Life was truly unpredictable. As various delicious dishes were served, the banquet officially began. Bian Kai stood up, holding his wine glass. As the host, he naturally had to say a few words first. Everyone, it's truly an honor to meet you all. You've all worked so hard lately. Although this banquet was suggested by General Manager Chiu, it's a rare opportunity, so I invited everyone here for a get-together and to introduce ourselves. General Manager Dai Tianlu should arrive soon. Well, I don't know what else to say. Enjoy your meal and drinks. Bian Kai's speech was simple and to the point, mainly because he wasn't particularly good at this kind of thing. The fact that he could speak so much was a result of holding several employee meetings recently. As Bian Kai finished speaking, the atmosphere at the banquet immediately became lively. Everyone raised their glasses and toasts and chatted about their respective work. Ho Qianyue, holding a wine glass, approached Bian Kai, patted him on the shoulder, and said, "Brother, this is a toast to you. Without your 30 billion, my mobile phone company would probably be completely finished." Enough said. I'll drink this. You can drink as you please. Sixth brother, what are you saying? We're brothers, no need for formalities. By the way, sixth brother, what stage is your mobile phone development at? Bian Kai was curious why developing a mobile phone required such a huge investment. Ho Qianyue had invested tens of billions so far, yet it seemed like there weren't many results. Actually, the research and development of other aspects of mobile phones doesn't cost much. The most important thing is chip research. Foreign countries have set up very high barriers for us in this area. We can only purchase high-precision chips from them at high prices. So if I could develop high-precision chips, the profits would be unimaginable. It's just that the investment in this area is too huge. Even now, we can only manufacture 7-nanometer chips, and we can't even mass-produce them. But foreign countries can already mass-produce 5-nanometer chips, and I heard that a 3-nanometer production line has been developed, and mass production is expected to begin soon. The gap between us and them in this area is really quite large. Ho Qianyue sighed as he talked about the arduous research and development work over the years. He grabbed the wine bottle on the table, filled his glass, and downed it without thinking. Sixth brother, you're amazing. You've been quietly doing something so significant. As a physics student, I know how difficult chip research is. You're doing something that benefits the country and its people. I salute you. Bian Kai, who studied physics in university, was very familiar with chips. He understood how difficult it was to improve chip precision, and couldn't help but feel a surge of respect for Ho Qianyue. What's the big deal? You're exaggerating, youngest brother. I'm just a businessman. I research chips because they're profitable and have good prospects. Whether it benefits the country and its people isn't my concern. I just didn't expect it to be such a bottomless pit. The expert team I hired is arguably the best in the country, and I've spent a lot of money, but we just haven't produced any good results. Seeing sixth brother's somewhat frustrated expression, Bian Kai suddenly remembered something. While comforting Ho Qianyue, he asked in his mind, "System, can skill points be exchanged for technical data?" "Yes, host." "How many skill points are needed to exchange for high-precision chip R&D data?" 9 nanometers requires 10 points, 7 nanometers requires 50 points, 5 nanometers requires 500 points, 3 nanometers requires 1,000 points, 1 nanometer requires 3,000 points, and 0.5 nanometers requires 10,000 points. It really is possible to exchange them, but the higher the precision of the chip, the more skill points are required. Bian Kai understands this, as higher precision requires more technical difficulty. The only pity is that he currently only has 550 skill points, which he only obtained by spending 55 billion to buy the Blue Ocean Hotel. That's enough to exchange for a 5-nanometer chip. However, foreign countries have already achieved mass production of 3-nanometer chips. While a 5-nanometer chip would surpass Ho Qianyue's current technology, it would still lag significantly behind. Bian Kai thought for a moment and decided to save up his skill points first, then directly exchange them for the technical data for a 1-nanometer chip. He did this firstly to solve Ho Qianyue's current difficulties, and secondly because he felt that Xia country was indeed lagging behind in this area, and as a Xia country citizen, he felt he should help if he could. Of course, he couldn't tell Ho Qianyue about this yet, as he didn't have enough skill points. Once he had enough, he would definitely give his sixth brother a big surprise. Bian Kai and Ho Qianyue chatted for a while longer before Ho Qianyue went to toast the others. Bian Kai was toasted repeatedly, but given his current physical condition, he certainly wouldn't get drunk like last time. In a regular private room at the Blue Ocean Hotel, Bu Kersen seemed preoccupied after returning from a phone call. She had little appetite and showed no interest in the delicious food on the table. Bu Kersen's appearance made Yunlei a little panicked. Had she given herself away? That handsome guy named Bian Kai must have said something to her. Otherwise, it was hard to explain Bu Kersen's current state. Xinxin, what's wrong? These are all your favorite foods. Why are you only eating so little? Are you feeling unwell? Pei Chushua asked, looking at the preoccupied Bu Kersen with some confusion. Oh, I'm fine. I probably ate too much at lunch. I'm not hungry yet. You don't need to worry about me. Bu Kersen didn't know whether she should directly ask Yunlei, but how could she bring herself to ask? If Bian Kai was wrong, it would not only damage their sisterly relationship, but also insult Yunlei's character. After much deliberation, Bu Kersen decided not to ask. But seeing her hesitant expression, Yunlei was basically certain that Bian Kai had told Bu Kersen her identity. No, she had to eat quickly, and then go straight to the Emperor KTV. Delay would only lead to complications. If something went wrong, not only would the 5 million yuan be lost, but she would also offend that fat Jean Mingzhu, and then she would be finished in the smuggling business in Zhongbei City. Everyone, eat up, it'll get cold if you don't. Xinxin, if you really can't eat, have some fruit. Bu Kersen became nervous when Yunlei spoke to her, her voice stammering. Okay, Lele, don't worry about me, just eat. Pei Chushua, seeing Bu Kersen's expression, suddenly had a thought and said, Xinxin, you didn't confess to that boss named Bian Kai and get rejected, did you? No way. Mr. Kai is far beyond my reach. Shue, don't speculate. I'm really fine. Yunlei chimed in at the opportune moment. Yeah, Shue, with Xinxin's looks, if she confessed, how many men could resist? Eat up, after we finish, let's relax a bit. I'll arrange the place. I guarantee everyone will have a great time. Yunlei didn't mention Emperor KTV. Given the current situation, she was afraid mentioning it would arouse Bu Kersen's suspicion, so she could only take them there first. Besides Bu Kersen, Pei Chushua and Lu Yu happily accepted the suggestion upon hearing Yunlei's words. Although Bu Kersen hesitated a bit, she felt that even if Yunlei were to betray them, it was unlikely to be now, and besides, it wasn't certain, so she nodded in agreement. Seeing that everyone agreed, Yunlei breathed a slight sigh of relief and began diligently serving her 3 roommates food, urging them to eat quickly. In the top-tier private room, Dai Tianlu was the last to arrive. While his identity wasn't exactly a household name throughout Xia country, those who regularly watched live streams knew him as the self-made owner of the Frog platform. Damn, Lao Yao, I was just wondering who this Dai Tianlu you mentioned was. Turns out he's the owner of Frog. When did you buy Frog? Aside from Do Tianwei, who had just met with Bian Kai, only Ho Qianyue and Xiu Penghai were unaware that Bian Kai had bought Frog. Dai Tianlu's appearance startled all 3. This guy is a big shot in the internet industry. Frog's valuation is at least hundreds of billions. Buying it would be impossible without several hundred billion. Ho Qianyue knew a little about Bian Kai's financial strength, but Xiu Penghai didn't know much. He had underestimated this young man's abilities. Haha, sixth brother, you're always too busy and don't pay enough attention to the youngest. This guy didn't just buy up the frogs, he bought up the big fish too, 1 trillion for each. Tung Hu, as Bian Kai's close friend, naturally knew the most about Bian Kai's affairs. He just didn't expect that his words would cause Ho Qianyue to drop his wine glass. Do Tianwei and Xiu Penghai stared blankly at Bian Kai. 1 trillion for each? That's 2 trillion. Just how rich is Boss Kai? Bian Kai had spoken to them earlier, hoping they would stay and continue managing Tianyu Real Estate and the Blue Ocean Hotel. But both of them were already worth hundreds of billions and didn't lack money, so they hesitated about Bian Kai's offer. Now, however, they had no hesitation. They were determined to work for Bian Kai. Hundreds of billions? Boss Kai casually spends trillions. Following Boss Kai, their future would definitely be bright. Yeah, sixth brother, you've been so busy these past few days you haven't even called much. How would you know I bought Frog and Big Fish? Alright, let's not talk about that. Since President Dai is here, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone? Dai Tianlu, holding his wine glass, began introducing himself to the others. Actually, he didn't need to introduce himself. Everyone present basically knew who this big shot was. Dai Tianlu didn't bring Yang Ying this time. It was indeed inappropriate for her to come as a secretary to this occasion, which made Yang Ying a little unhappy, since opportunities to meet President Kai were so rare. Moreover, she'd been studying her profession diligently lately, watching countless movies, and had been eager to test her skills, but hadn't had the chance. The banquet in the top-tier private room lasted a full 2 hours. At Xiu Penghai's suggestion, everyone decided to go to the Emperor KTV to relax. Actually, the Blue Ocean Hotel also had its own entertainment venue, but it wasn't as lively as the Emperor's, so they decided to go there instead. Just as they were leaving, the group from dormitory 403 also finished their dinner. Outside the Blue Ocean Hotel, Xiang Tian had arranged for over a dozen supercars to arrive. Everyone except Bian Kai got into one. Bian Kai actually wanted to ride in his own car, but the 2 female classmates pulled him into Lu Xueqing's Bentley Flying Spur. Bian Kai was also helpless and could only leave his car at the hotel. The driver was Lu Tong. After the Huangxing incident, with Xiang Tian's help, Lu Tong took her driving tests, parts 3 and 4, on her own and passed them on her first try, successfully obtaining her driver's license. Today, she genuinely had her period, unlike Shiringxiu who had used it as an excuse to sneak into Bian Kai's room. This was Lu Tong's first time driving since getting her license, and she was understandably nervous, especially with the occasional noise coming from the back, which made her even more anxious. At this moment, she also wanted to sit in the back. To be honest, Lu Tong didn't like men who were too fickle, but Bian Kai was different. This handsome man had not only saved her, but also entrusted her with such a large company as Kaishin Capital. Regardless of Bian Kai's womanizing ways, his trust alone made him worth her affections. The only pity was that two senior students, whose looks were in no way inferior to hers, had already beaten her to it. Although she was younger than the two senior students, this age difference seemed to have no effect on their charm, especially their mature womanly allure, which she couldn't match. However, Lu Tong didn't give up. Since Bian Kai was a womanizer, she had a chance, and judging from the two senior students' personalities, they weren't the type to be intolerant of others. Lu Tong listened to the occasional noises behind her, her heart pounding. Fortunately, the cars in front and behind were from Shunfeng Company, and it was nighttime, so there weren't many cars on the road. She arrived at the Emperor KTV's underground parking lot without incident. The girls from Dormitory 403 arrived at the Emperor KTV around the same time as Bian Kai and his group, but they had taken a taxi and went directly to the entrance. Emperor KTV, the largest entertainment venue in Zhongbei City, is also its biggest money pit. The owner is Jin Mingzhu, whose ability to defeat competitors is entirely due to the backing of the Bai family. Of course, Jin Mingzhu pays Bai Qingshan a large sum of money annually in return, yet he still makes a fortune from this KTV. Emperor KTV's biggest source of income isn't its singing business, but rather its involvement in various shady activities, including human trafficking. Each trafficker has to pay a hefty bribe to operate within the venue. Furthermore, Emperor KTV houses a secret underground boxing ring. Boxing rings and casinos are inextricably linked, resulting in a daily turnover of tens of millions. Both the human trafficking rings and the underground boxing ring are highly secretive, operating primarily on a personal network. Newcomers need recommendations from experienced members to gain access to these businesses. Ordinary people usually come here to sing karaoke, but the environment at Emperor KTV is unmatched by other KTVs, and the price isn't much higher, so many people choose to come here to relax and have fun. Inside the largest and most luxurious private room at the Emperor KTV, Jin Mingzhu stood respectfully to one side, while Bai Qingshan reclined on a large sofa, flanked by two alluring and beautiful women. However, Bai Qingshan seemed uninterested in these two women, letting them do as they pleased without moving. On the sofa to the left sat a middle-aged man with a slightly dark complexion and a burly build, also flanked by a woman. Unlike Bai Qingshan, he wasn't picky. This guy had already completed his business once in the private room's lounge. Now, caught up in the moment, he planned to go back into the lounge, causing a hint of panic to cross the women's eyes. This guy was inhuman. His business skills were too strong. If it happened again, they felt they would die on the spot. Zhongju, don't act like you've never been with a woman in your life. The best is yet to come. Finish your business now, or you'll have the energy for the high-quality ones later. Bai Qingshan felt a pang of jealousy looking at the dark-faced man's lustful expression, but there was nothing he could do. The man was simply too powerful. That's right, this dark-faced man was none other than Zhongju, the boss of Hung'an. His strength had reached 8,000 times, almost on par with Bian Kai's brother, Zhuangyu. He was now Bai Qingshan's hired personal bodyguard, responsible for Bai Qingshan's safety. Tonight, Bai Qingshan hadn't invited anyone except Zhongju. He was a very solitary and arrogant person. In his eyes, the results to be inspected tomorrow were entirely his own achievement. No one else deserved to share in the spoils of victory. As for Zhongju, Bai Qingshan only kept him around for entertainment because he was his personal bodyguard. Previously, Zhongju had severely injured Pang Long because of Chao Yunwei's incident. Afterwards, Zhuangyu came to their door, and the two fought to a draw, creating an irreconcilable feud between Qiangduan and Hung'an. Bai Qingshan terminated his contract with Qiangduan because of Bian Kai's situation and signed a new security contract with Hung'an. The reason he initially signed with Qiangduan was because everyone knew the strength of the 5 Qiangduan brothers. While Hung'an had Zhongju, the other two partners weren't exactly useless, but their individual strength was somewhat inferior to Teng Hu's, making them unable to handle any situation. Therefore, Bai Qingshan initially chose Qiangduan. However, Qiangduan had its own rules and regulations and wouldn't act as thugs, while Hung'an had virtually no bottom line. They would do anything for money. Bai Qingshan and Zhongju were kindred spirits, and they had gotten along quite well recently, even exchanging human trafficking resources. Haha, Chairman Bai, you underestimate me. I'm strong enough. I could easily take 10 more women like this. But when are those high-quality women you mentioned? If it takes too long, I'll go to the lounge. Zhongju laughed heartily at Bai Qingshan's words. He could handle business for 2 days and 2 nights straight without breaking a sweat. No energy? Absolutely not. You're practically an animal. Look how scared you've made those two beauties. Fatty Jean, when are those top-notch college students you mentioned finally arriving? We've been waiting for ages. Chairman Bai, please calm down. I just sent a message. They're on their way. However, these are all aloof individuals, so the smugglers need to use some tactics. Don't worry, it won't interfere with your business dealings with Mr. Zhong. It might even be more exciting. Fatty Jean was also helpless. Bai Qingshan had arrived an hour ago. He called Yunlei, but she hung up. Fortunately, she replied with a message explaining the situation. Fatty Jean was very familiar with the smuggler's methods, so he understood Yunlei's approach. They had to lower the praise guard completely, otherwise, any slip-up would mean failure. This operation couldn't afford to fail, so Fatty Jean didn't dare urge Yunlei too much. He could only find 4 women to vent the anger of these 2 big shots. The 2 women beside Bai Qingshan were alright, but the women beside Zhongju were practically unable to walk. Chairman Bai was absolutely right. This guy was a beast. Fatty Jean knew Zhongju's identity. He owned an underground boxing ring, and when Zhongju swept through the Xia Kingdom's boxing scene, his ring was also affected. More than 100 boxers couldn't withstand a single blow from Zhongju, and Zhongju didn't seem to be using much strength at all. Therefore, Fatty Jean served this peak martial arts master with utmost respect, afraid of displeasing this master and getting another punch. Half an hour ago, Yunlei sent a message saying she was already on her way with her prey. Judging by the time, she should be arriving soon. At the entrance of Emperor KTV, several girls from dormitory 403 got out of a taxi. Looking at the massive, glittering, neon-lit building, Bukursin felt a strange sense of unease. Lele, how about we go somewhere else? This place doesn't look very legitimate. Bukursin tentatively suggested. She really didn't want any entertainment or relaxation right now. She just wanted to go back to her dormitory. Oh, Xian, don't worry. This KTV is the biggest and most reputable in the entire Zhongbei city. Otherwise, how could it have been open for so many years without any problems? Since it's a farewell party for you and Shui, we naturally have to choose the best. Let me tell you a secret. The sound system here is top of the line, with built-in reverb, making the singing experience comparable to a stage. We're both music students, so we have very high standards for sound quality. Even if we sing beautifully in a small KTV, the sound coming from a cheap sound system will be unbearable. With the deal almost done, Yunlei was determined to persuade these three to go in. Once they stepped into the Emperor KTV, her 5 million yuan would be hers. Seemingly convinced, Pei Chuxue and Lu Yu's eyes gleamed. Yunlei was right. As music students, the stage was their ultimate dream. If they could really find that stage feeling here, that would be great. Although they hadn't been to this KTV before, they had heard of it, and there hadn't been any scandalous incidents. So, the two of them also started persuading Bukursin. Xian, there are 4 of us. Besides, it's in public, what's there to worry about? Let's go, we'll sing for a bit, and then go back to school. It can only be said that Pei Chuxue and Lu Yu are incredibly naive, completely oblivious to the dangers of this world. Actually, Bukursin is the same. If it weren't for Bian Kai's phone call, she'd probably be in no different state than the other two. Even so, after being persuaded by Yunlei and the other two, Bukursin finally relented. The 4 of them went into the Emperor KTV. Yunlei had Jean Pongzi prepare a private room beforehand. This private room was directly below Bai Qingshan's room. Although there were 2 floors between them, a very discreet separate elevator connected the 2 floors. Not only that, but there were also 4 hidden high-definition cameras in the 4 corners of the ceiling of the private room, and the surveillance footage was directly transmitted to the large screen in Bai Qingshan's room. Just as Yunlei led the other 3 into the private room, the surveillance footage was transmitted in real time to Bai Qingshan's room. Jean Pongzi pressed a button on the large screen in the room with a remote control. Instantly, the screen showed the scene of Yunlei and the others in their private room. Even a seasoned womanizer like Bai Qingshan was attracted to the girls on the screen. Moreover, one of them looked somewhat familiar to him, as if he had seen her somewhere before, but he couldn't remember where. Zhongju was even more embarrassed. He shoved the 2 women beside him aside and pointed at Yunlei and Lu Yu on the screen, saying, I want these 2. Logically speaking, although Yunlei was quite pretty and had a good figure, she was still quite different from the other 3. Zhongju's choice highlights his worldly wisdom. It's obvious Bai Qingshan would never want Yunlei. Putting aside her looks, Fatty Jean just said she's the smuggler. Bai Qingshan would never be interested in a smuggler who's already been with thousands. But Zhongju isn't picky. Besides, isn't there another very beautiful one? He'll have that beautiful one handle the main business, with the smuggler assisting. It sounds pretty good. Bai Qingshan glanced at Zhongju and said with a smile, all right, since Brother Zhong has made his choice, the remaining 2 are mine. Fatty Jean, you said before that these are all virgins. Not entirely. The 2 Mr. Zhong chose aren't. The snakehead definitely isn't. And as for the other one, I heard from the snakehead that she had a boyfriend before and even lived with him for a while, so she shouldn't be a virgin either. As for the remaining 2, the snakehead has already assured me they're definitely virgins. Fatty Jean hadn't expected Zhongju to be so accurate, picking the 2 who weren't virgins right away. This guy really knows how to play the game of human relationships. Fatty Jean, you did a great job this time. I haven't seen such a top-quality virgin in years. After we secure Chiu Penghai's project tomorrow, I'll definitely give you a share. I can't guarantee more, but making a few hundred million or even $1 billion shouldn't be a problem. Bai Qingshan was indeed very satisfied with Pei Chuxue and Bukursin on the surveillance footage. One had a slightly aloof air, quite like a celebrity. The other was cute and gentle, her pitiful appearance making him want to hold her tightly in his arms. That feeling would be the pinnacle of life. Thank you, Chairman, thank you so much. It's all I should do. I've been fortunate to have your support all these years, which has allowed me to thrive in Zhongbei City. Shall we have the smugglers start the plan now? Just as Bai Qingshan was about to say yes, the door to the private room was opened from the outside, and a waiter bowed and entered. He whispered something in Fatty Jin's ear, and Bai Qingshan vaguely heard the name Dog Lao Si. Tell him to wait in another private room. I'll come over after I've finished arranging things here. Fatty Jin was about to send the waiter away when Bai Qingshan stopped him. Wait, did you just say Dog Lao Si? Yes, Chairman Bai, I had Dog Lao Si investigate a bit before. You know, although that guy's a bit of a scoundrel, he's pretty good at gathering information. Although Fatty Jin was a little suspicious of Bai Qingshan's interest in Dog Lao Si, he still answered the question truthfully. Perfect timing. I also had him investigate some things before. Let's call him over for a chat. This will give the smugglers some time to implement their plan. Tell them clearly, I don't want any clueless people, understand? Don't just confuse them. That makes business pointless. Okay, Chairman Bai, I happen to have some imported new drugs here. I've tested their effects before. Even the most aloof woman will become a slut in front of this drug, guaranteeing you the ultimate experience. Haha, you're the best, Fatty Jin. You're so sensible. Alright, let your subordinates arrange this. Call Dog Lao Si in. The deadline I gave him is almost up. I wonder how the investigation went. Meanwhile, the girls in dormitory 403, except for Yunlei, were unaware they were being watched. They had already begun eagerly selecting songs. Bu Kursin, seeing that nothing was happening, temporarily relaxed and gathered around the karaoke machine with Pei Chuxue and Lu Yu, discussing what songs to sing later. Unbeknownst to them, they had already been divided up, betrayed by their roommates of 3 years. They considered Yunlei their best friend, but in Yunlei's eyes, these 3 girls were nothing more than poison she had already fattened. Yunlei was about to text Jean Pongzi to ask when the plan would begin when she saw a waiter waving at her through the glass partition of the karaoke room. You guys start selecting songs, I'll go get some food and drinks, otherwise my throat will be burning. The other 3 girls didn't think much of it. They were going to drink something at the karaoke bar. They didn't drink alcohol, but juice and soft drinks were fine. After Yunlei went outside, the waiter pulled her into the fire escape and then pulled a small, transparent bag from his uniform pocket, handing it to her. Inside were 4 white pills. Boss Jean said we'll use this later. It dissolves instantly. Hurry up, the big shots are waiting. Yunlei felt a pang of anxiety looking at the pills. She recognized them. Although this drug had only recently appeared in Zhongbei, as one of the few high-quality human traffickers, she had witnessed its effects firsthand. Once either man or woman takes this drug, they completely lose their self-awareness, left only with endless desire. Even if satisfied, the after-effects are severe. The person who takes the drug will be weak for at least a week afterward, unable to even get out of bed. If satisfaction is not achieved, the continuous, intense stimulation will cause the person's heart rate to rise continuously. If the drug's effects cannot be released, the heart rate will exceed a critical threshold, leading to shock in mild cases and immediate death in severe cases. Tell Mr. Jean that I brought my own medicine. This stuff is too risky, beyond my tolerance. You see, to avoid revealing her identity, Yunlei and her roommates also had to take medication together, but she didn't want to take these white pills. They could be fatal. I can't make that decision. I'm just relaying Mr. Jin's message. If you don't agree, just tell him yourself. The waiter definitely wouldn't go and relay the message to Mr. Jean. If you want to refuse, go and say it yourself. If I do, I might get scolded. Okay, you can go now. I'll call Mr. Jean myself. The waiter didn't linger, leaving the medicine behind before leaving. Yunlei dialed Fatty Jin's number, but it was hung up after 2 rings. At that moment, Fatty Jean was listening to Dog Lao Si's investigation results. Seeing Yunlei's call, he roughly guessed what she wanted to talk to him about, so he hung up and sent her a message. I'm talking to Chairman Bai. You can start the operation on your end. Once the drug takes effect, someone will take you to the elevator. I'll transfer the final payment to your account immediately afterward. Yunlei replied to Fatty Jin's message immediately. Mr. Jean, the operation can begin, but I have a condition. Either use the medicine I brought myself, or if you insist on using the medicine you provide, transfer the remaining balance to me now, and it has to be an extra $1 million. This time, the risk I'm taking is too great. Otherwise, forget it. Jean the fat man was furious upon seeing Yunlei's message. Damn it, this lousy smuggler dared to make demands of him. But looking at Bai Qingshan and Zhongju, who were already eager to try, he felt helpless. Damn it, you can't catch a wolf without risking your cub. This stinking woman Yunlei has cards to play now, and I can't do anything about her. After this is all over, I'll make you spit out everything you've swallowed. Although he was furious, Jean the fat man dared not truly anger Yunlei at this moment. If she took those female college students away, he wouldn't be able to explain it to Bai Qingshan. He opened his mobile banking app and transferred 3.5 million to Yunlei, then sent another message. The money's transferred. You'd better not cause any trouble, or you know the consequences. Start the plan quickly, don't keep Chairman Bai waiting too long. Ding. Yunlei looked at the text message notification that 3.5 million had arrived, almost jumping for joy. Looking at the white pill in her hand, she muttered to herself. I've treated you like pampered mistresses for 3 years, providing you with the best food and drink. It's time for you to repay me. This medicine is strong, but someone will provide the antidote. Yunlei took 2 pitchers of coconut juice from the counter and returned to the private room. She chose coconut juice because the drink is white, making the pill invisible once dissolved. Back in the private room, she sat on the sofa. Seeing the other 3 girls singing enthusiastically in front, completely unaware of her, she casually placed 4 cups on the table, poured coconut juice into each, and then discreetly dropped the pill into each cup. She was genuinely afraid of the white pills, so she used a homemade drug instead. This drug had the same effect as the white pills, but was much weaker. However, the advantages were obvious. There wouldn't be such strong after-effects, no life-threatening danger, and the person who took it could even retain some consciousness. Although still driven by desire, they wouldn't completely lose self-awareness. Some people with strong willpower could even temporarily resist the drug's effects and control their desires, but such people were very rare. Yunlei knew that if Jean Pongzi found out, she would definitely be punished, because the fact that there were 4 pills meant she was also involved in this business. Yunlei didn't care about doing business. She'd been caught up in it countless times before, so one more or less didn't matter, as long as she made money. But she really didn't dare take this drug. It could be fatal. Fortunately, she had seen what people who took this drug were like before. She could pretend and maybe get away with it. After administering the medicine, Yunlei didn't rush the other 3 to drink it. That would be too deliberate, especially since Bukurson was clearly wary of her. Being too obvious would only expose her. Anyway, it was already divided. They could drink whenever they wanted. She just needed to protect her own cup from being taken away. Perhaps because they had just eaten, the other 3 girls showed no interest in drinks. Yunlei wasn't in a hurry. There was no point in rushing. It was all because of Bian Kai's meddling. Otherwise, things would have been much easier. Furthermore, Fatty Jean hadn't texted her to urge her. Although somewhat suspicious, Yunlei didn't care. She already had the money. The reason Fatty Jean hadn't pressured her was because he was shocked by some information Go Lao Si had uncovered. Bai Qingshan, on the other hand, smashed everything he could in the private room. He even smashed the large screen monitoring the 4 girls to pieces with a wine bottle. The story then returns to Bai Qingshan's instructing Go Lao Si to report on the investigation in the live stream. President Jean, oh dear, Chairman Bai is here too. It just so happens you 2 asked me to investigate the same person, so I'll report together. Go Lao Si's words puzzled both Bai Qingshan and Fatty Jean. Bai Qingshan asked, Fatty Jean, are you also investigating Bian Kai? Yes, Chairman Bai, I am indeed investigating Bian Kai. To be honest, I suffered quite a loss at that kid's hands. I got beaten up, and he almost broke my finger. Fatty Jean only mentioned being beaten up, omitting the fact that the birthday gift he had prepared for Bai Qingshan had been stolen. He couldn't reveal this. Otherwise, no matter what gift he presented on Chairman Bai's birthday, Chairman Bai would consider it inferior to the one Bian Kai had taken. Everyone is like that. They always think what they can't have is the best. So even if Fatty Jean gave Bai Qingshan a mountain of gold for his birthday, Bai Qingshan would still think the one Bian Kai had stolen was the best. Oh, I didn't expect the infamous Fatty Jean from Zhongbei City to get beaten up. What about all those boxers you've been training? Bai Qingshan was puzzled that Fatty Jean had been beaten by Bian Kai. This guy had over 100 boxers under his command, and judging from the incident at the sales office, Bian Kai wasn't particularly strong. He was easily stopped by Xiao Jun logically. He shouldn't have been able to beat up Fatty Jean. Sigh, it was my carelessness. I only brought 2 bodyguards with me, not a fighter, which is why this kid tricked me. Didn't you think about revenge? That's not like you, Fatty Jean. Of course I thought about it, but something happened that made me hesitate. You know the Qianda Jade specialty store in Hengxiang Shopping Mall. The manager there was incredibly polite to this kid, saying he received orders from Qianda Jade headquarters to treat him as their most honored customer. This made me unsure of Bian Kai's background, so I didn't act rashly. I was thinking of having Dog Lao Si investigate his background before considering anything else. Bai Qingshan nodded, agreeing with Fatty Jin's approach. Indeed, without knowing the other party's bottom line, acting rashly could easily provoke an enemy you can't afford to offend. Qianda Jade, indeed a behemoth. But, this is Xia country. Even if they're powerful, they can't touch me. Just because you can't afford to offend them doesn't mean I can't. Speaking of which, I was humiliated by this kid, which is why I had Dog Lao Si investigate his identity. It's surprising we're thinking the same thing. Alright, let's not talk about that anymore. Dog Lao Si, tell me your findings. Dog Lao Si, seeing the 2 big shots chatting, didn't dare interrupt. Only when Bai Qingshan asked did he begin to explain his findings. President Jean, it's fortunate you didn't seek revenge on this kid named Bian Kai. If Chairman Bai hadn't intervened, and you had gone to seek revenge yourself, things could have really gone wrong. Hearing Dog Lao Si's words, Fatty Jin's heart jumped to his throat. Thank goodness. If he hadn't been cautious, he probably would have suffered an even greater loss. He quickly gave Dog Lao Si a look, signaling him to continue. Actually, the information I gave you last time, Mr. Jean, was all true. This kid named Bian Kai was just a poor loser before. His parents were ordinary people, and the woman he was pursuing was snatched away by young Master Bai. Dog Lao Si glanced at Bai Qingshan as he said this, and Bai Qingshan nodded, saying, I've heard about this from Mingwei. As for the girl Bian Kai was pursuing, I've met her. She's not bad looking, although not as pretty as the 3 on the screen, but much prettier than that snakehead. However, it seems Mingwei has gotten tired of her recently and plans to dump her and find someone new. Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. Dog Lao Si, you continue. Yes, Chairman Bai, the next piece of information took me a lot of effort to find out. It seems that after the night young Master Bai beat Bian Kai up, this kid suddenly became incredibly successful. Not only did he instantly acquire immeasurable wealth, but his own strength also increased by leaps and bounds. The fact that Boss Jean was beaten was a consequence of his increased strength. Otherwise, with Bian Kai's originally weak physique, he wouldn't have been able to withstand a single slap from Boss Jean. As for why he had this cheat code, I only found out yesterday from his hometown. Yesterday, Bian Kai called his parents and then transferred 100,000 yuan to them. His parents inadvertently revealed in a conversation that Bian Kai met a master that night. This master not only left him a huge fortune, but also helped him improve his strength. Dog Lao Si swallowed hard. His mouth was dry from talking so much. Seeing this, Fatty Jean handed him a glass of wine. Dog Lao Si downed the wine in one gulp and continued. Leaving aside his current strength, his methods of accumulating power are astonishing. Bian Kai has bought many companies recently, including the Shuefu Hotel at North China University, Xinguang Digital City owned by the second young master of the Ho family, Xiangduan Security Company, Xinfeng Ride-Hailing, and so on. Xiangduan Security? You mean Bian Kai bought Xiangduan Security? Zhongju, who had been silent until now, jumped to his feet upon hearing Xiangduan Security. His Hengyan and Xiangduan Security were mortal enemies. He had previously used any means necessary to steal many of Xiangduan's people for profit. But recently, this competitor seemed to have suddenly become wealthy, poaching many of his people, including some quite skilled experts. Now he finally understood why. Someone had bought Xiangduan, and if they had the money to buy Xiangduan, they must have invested a considerable amount of money in it. Yes, you must be Mr. Zhongju from Hengyan. It's an honor to meet you. Bian Kai did indeed buy Xiangduan Security recently, and you'd never guess the price. 100 billion. Bian Kai spent a full 100 billion to buy Xiangduan. What? 3 questions, tinged with shock, suddenly rang out. Fatty Jean was so shocked he stood up from the sofa, his voice trembling slightly as he asked. Old fourth dog, is your information accurate? That's 100 billion. Even if Xiangduan Security has a few skilled fighters, it couldn't possibly be worth 100 billion. Mr. Jean, don't say you don't believe it. I didn't believe it either when I first heard the news, but it's true. I got this information through connections at the bank. On the same day, 100 billion yuan entered Zhuang Yu's account. He then divided 80 billion yuan into 4 parts and transferred them to his 4 brothers. The source of this money could not be traced by the bank, as the account used for the transfers was confirmed to be a temporary virtual account belonging to a bank in the United States. After the transfers, this virtual account disappeared, and no further information could be found. My friend at the bank reported this matter but received no response, seemingly suppressed by some unknown force. Similar incidents occurred several times in the following days, all corresponding to Bian Kai's external transfers. Each time, it was a temporary virtual account. All that was known was that the bank was a bank in the United States, but the account number and name were fake. This bizarre situation left Bai Qingshan and his companions completely bewildered. What was a temporary virtual account? Did such a thing even exist? Both Xia country and Watch country had extremely strict regulations on banks. The existence of virtual bank accounts was simply unheard of. Bai Qingshan suddenly remembered that Bian Kai had transferred money to the Bai family when he bought a house at Tianyu Mansion. He immediately called the company's finance department, asking them to investigate where that 1.1 billion yuan transfer had come from. Less than a minute later, the finance department called back. The money had been transferred from a foreign bank, but the account holder wasn't Bian Kai. It was Tang Tianjun, though the account number was a normal bank account. Bai Qingshan relayed the finance department's findings, while Go Laosi produced all the bank receipts for Bian Kai's previous transfers, amounts ranging from 5 billion, 30 billion, 50 billion, and so on, with the two largest transactions reaching a staggering 1 trillion. The fact that Go Laosi could produce these receipts showed that this private investigator indeed had his own methods and wasn't just a figurehead, but even so, they were meaningless, because the name and account number on each receipt were different. The account number revealed nothing, but the names were incredibly varied: Feng Qiansheng, Qin Tian, Tang Haiyang, and even two compound surnames, Ouyang Duo and Nangang Yueming. Especially the latter two names, which were clearly women's names, added an unsettling element to the situation, sending chills down by Qingshan and the other's spines. No one knew what was going on, but Go Laosi pointed to each of the transfer receipts, explaining by date what Bian Kai had done with the money, to prove he wasn't lying. 100 million was deposited into the Wawa platform. 5 billion was transferred to Chu Tianhe to buy the Xuefu Hotel. 30 billion was transferred to Ho Qianyue to buy the Xinguang Digital City. 1.1 billion was transferred to Hengxiang Shopping Mall's public account, and a few smaller transfers were made to merchants within Hengxiang Shopping Mall. Over 530 million was transferred to Qinda Emerald's public account, followed by another 1 billion deposited into the Wawa live streaming platform, and 1 billion transferred to the Bai family's public account. Bai Qingshan knew this was Bian Kai's full payment for a house. With over a dozen receipts, Dog Laosi had meticulously investigated Bian Kai's spending during this period, revealing a remarkably thorough investigation. However, unbeknownst to him, a life sentence was about to befall him. Bai Qingshan grew increasingly alarmed as he listened. Just who was this Bian Kai? Or rather, who was his master? Especially the 2 trillion spent to acquire Frog and Big Fish. That was an extraordinary sum. Although the Bai family dominated Zhongbei, their assets were only slightly over 100 billion. In other words, this guy casually spent 20 Bai families just to buy 2 live streaming platforms? The crucial point was that all the assets Bian Kai acquired were overpriced, and by a significant margin. Bai Qingshan was now wondering if, had they not had a previous conflict, he could have demanded a higher price if he had sold the Bai family to Bian Kai. 300 billion? 500 billion? But he knew this was impossible. Even if Bian Kai was a complete novice in business, he would never give money to his enemy for nothing. This was evident in all of Bian Kai's spending. Apart from the shop in Hengxiang Shopping Mall, which was rented and therefore not at a premium, the only other property he purchased without a premium was the 25 apartments in Tianyumingdi. He bought them at the market price. Moreover, Bai Qingshan guessed that Bian Kai bought those apartments out of necessity. There really wasn't a more luxurious or comfortable residential area in the entire Zhongbei city than Tianyumingdi. So, Bai Qingshan gave up on the idea of reselling the Bai family property to Bian Kai at a premium. He'd rather earn his own money bit by bit. As long as he got the Tianyu real estate land, he could make a fortune. But then, as Go Laosi explained, Bai Qingshan felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. 50 billion? Bian Kai actually spent 50 billion to buy Tianyu real estate? Hearing this, Bai Qingshan's expression instantly changed from shock to rage. He didn't care how generous Bian Kai was with his money, but he'd been planning the Tianyu real estate deal for over half a month, and tomorrow was the day to see the results. He hadn't expected Bian Kai to snatch it away halfway through. Buying Tianyu real estate meant that the land now belonged to Bian Kai. How could this not enrage Bai Qingshan? The old man's eyes instantly turned red. He grabbed a wine bottle and threw it, then proceeded to smash everything in sight. Zhong Ju and Fatty Jean remained silent. They knew why Bai Qingshan was furious. Once that land was developed, it would elevate the Bai family to a new level, perhaps even reaching the strength of the Ho family. Bian Kai was cutting off their livelihood. He hadn't intended to kill Bai Qingshan's parents. Even killing them might not have enraged him so much. Old Dog Fourth was completely stunned. Just a moment ago, everything was fine. How did this big shot suddenly become so enraged? He had been busy gathering information on Bian Kai and hadn't paid any attention to the Qingnan district development. So naturally, he didn't know why Bai Qingshan was angry. Bian Kai, I swear I'll never forgive you. No matter what hidden forces you have behind you. I, Bai Qingshan, vow to kill you to vent my hatred. Dog Laosi, stop your nonsense and tell me the result. Who exactly is this Bian Kai, or his master? Dog Laosi looked at Bai Qingshan, whose eyes had turned blood red, and said tremblingly, This, I couldn't find anything. All the clues ended here. Apart from these bank statements, I couldn't find any information about Bian Kai. Then what are you here to report? Report on how powerful this little brat Bian Kai is? Are you warning me not to mess with him? You dog, whose money are you taking? And whose dog are you? Bai Qingshan said, grabbing a singing microphone and smashing it at Dog Laosi. Dog Laosi's head was instantly smashed open, and blood immediately flowed out. Oh, Chairman Bai, please calm down. Please calm down. It's not that I didn't want to investigate. It's just that I couldn't find any other information. Please, Chairman Bai, spare my life. Dog Laosi knelt on the ground, kowtowing frantically, but it was no match for the huge, blood-sucking wound on his head. He hadn't expected that after coming to report twice, he'd first been beaten by Fatty Jean, and then by Bai Qingshan. If he managed to get out of here alive, he would never have taken such a big job. It was like having the money, but not the life to enjoy it. Spare your life? What if my Bai group's future is ruined? Fatty Jean, throw this kid into your underground boxing ring and give him the most ruthless boxer. Bai Qingshan had completely lost his mind. Unable to retaliate against Bian Kai right now. Who knew where that guy was? He could only find someone to quell his anger, and the only one present who could do that was Dog Laosi. Okay, Chairman Bai, I'll arrange it right away. Fatty Jean didn't waste any words. He didn't dare say a single unnecessary word, afraid Bai Qingshan would vent his anger on him. He called in 2 security guards who dragged the blood-soaked Dog Laosi out, heading straight for the 3rd basement level. The 3rd basement level was where the boxing ring was located. Inside weren't just boxers and matches, but also countless gamblers, white-collar workers, bosses, executives, and hardcore gamblers. Dog Laosi was thrown in there. His fate was predictable. Without a doubt, he wouldn't walk out alive. He'd be lucky to even have a whole corpse. Unbeknownst to Bai Qingshan, his sworn enemy, Bian Kai, was currently in a luxurious private room, drinking and singing to his heart's content. By the way, Bian Kai and his group arrived at the Emperor KTV around the same time as the girls from dormitory 403, except his convoy of luxury cars drove directly to the underground parking lot. Then they took the elevator to the 5th floor. There were only 5 private rooms on the entire 5th floor. Besides Bai Qingshan's room, there were 4 other smaller but equally luxurious rooms. Qiu Penghai couldn't book Bai Qingshan's room, as it was reserved by Fatty Jean for VIPs. However, the other 4 rooms could be booked with a fee. Bian Kai and his group were now separated from Bai Qingshan by only 2 rooms, but the atmosphere in their respective rooms was completely different. The atmosphere in Bian Kai's room was incredibly lively. It was a constant stream of singing, with everyone taking turns performing, regardless of their vocal quality. At Bian Kai's insistence, everyone had to sing a song. Furthermore, Bian Kai stipulated that no one present was allowed to discuss any work-related matters. They were there to have fun and be entertained. Qiu Penghai, being quite sensible, refused Dou Tianwei's suggestion to hire a smuggler to bring in some women to liven things up. Everyone present was a significant figure. Leaving aside Bian Kai, their boss, the status of Ho Qianyue and Dai Tianlu alone meant they wouldn't be interested in such vulgar women. Especially with 2 beautiful lawyers and a beautiful college student present. Bringing in a few random women wouldn't liven things up. It would only annoy everyone. Dou Tianwei's suggestion was just that, a suggestion. After Qiu Penghai's refusal, he understood the problem and never brought it up again. They had now decided to follow Bian Kai, so they needed to consider their boss's feelings and their actions. At Bian Kai's urging, everyone went on stage and sang a song. A truly chaotic and agonizing spectacle. Aside from the 3 ladies, who among them could sing, especially Zhuang Yu and his fellow soldiers, who had served their entire lives. But to save face for their brothers, they all went on stage and sang a song. The 5 brothers sang military songs. They weren't exactly beautiful, but their powerful presence still managed to slightly shock everyone. After all, they were all peak-level martial artists, naturally possessing a formidable aura. Besides them, whether it was the distinguished figures like Ho Qianyue and Dai Tianlu, or Xiang Tian and Qiu Penghai, each of them challenged the nerves of the audience, especially Ho Qianyue. Logically, in terms of status, he was the most distinguished person present besides Bian Kai, yet he chose a song that was impossible for him to sing. Chasing Dreams with a Pure Heart. His voice cracked, he went off key, he missed the beat, it was all a hysterical screaming. If it weren't for his status, everyone else would have covered their ears. No one could understand the torment and pain Ho Qianyue had endured over the years, the pressure from his family, the ridicule from his brother Ho Baiyue, and the despair and fear of being kicked out of the family. Even with his sworn brothers, especially Bian Kai, he hadn't revealed a word of these matters, knowing they might be able to help him. But Ho Qianyue had his own pride. He didn't believe he couldn't achieve something through his own efforts. So he sang, Chasing Dreams with a Pure Heart, pouring out all the grievances he'd endured over the years. Everyone else present thought Ho Qianyue was joking, but only Zhuang Yu and Bian Kai, his sworn brothers, sensed something was amiss. The lighting in the private room was relatively dim, making it difficult for others to see clearly. Only Bian Kai and his brothers, with their peak martial arts master-level skills, noticed the faint glimmer of tears in Ho Qianyue's eyes, though he tried his best to hide them. But how could they escape Bian Kai and his brothers' notice? The brothers exchanged glances, not questioning Ho Qianyue on the spot, but keeping the matter to themselves. The eldest brother, Zhuang Yu, whispered something in Pang Long's ear. Although the room was very noisy, Bian Kai and his brothers' hearing was naturally able to hear it. The gist of the instruction was that Pang Long should secretly follow Ho Qianyue from now on. Although they were sworn brothers, he wouldn't reveal anything about Lao Lu's affairs, and no one else should pry. Their only responsibility was to ensure Ho Qianyue's safety. The reason for this secret protection was that Zhuang Yu had previously arranged for Li Xiang to protect Ho Qianyue, but Ho Qianyue had refused. With Pang Long's strength nearly 5,000 times greater, while there might be people who could threaten Ho Qianyue's safety, they were definitely few. Ho Qianyue, currently shouting incoherently, naturally had no idea of the decision his sworn brothers had made. Ho Qianyue's situation was a minor incident. After the group of men finished singing, Lu Xueqing, Shi Ringxiu, and Lu Tong each sang a song, finally giving everyone some peace and quiet. Although the women weren't professionally trained musicians, they still captivated all the men present with their beautiful voices and fairly standard pitch. After everyone had finished singing, they realized there was one who had slipped through the net. Bian Kai, the guy who had been encouraging everyone else to sing. After one person finished singing, he immediately called on others to sing, resulting in him being the only one left without a song. How could anyone agree to this? As the boss, he should logically lead by example. But Bian Kai knew his own limitations. His singing ability was on par with Ho Qianyue's. His earlier encouragement of others to sing was simply a way to muddle through. However, he overlooked his own position. Everyone else might be forgotten, but he wouldn't be, because he was the boss. President Kai, sing a song. You're so handsome, you must sing very well. That's right, President Kai. It's not appropriate for you not to sing, since we're the only ones singing. That's the evil capitalist. Our President Kai can watch others embarrass themselves while he tries to protect himself. The crowd egged Bian Kai on, everyone waiting for him to make a fool of himself, especially Lu Xueqing and Shi Ringxiu. As the people closest to Bian Kai among those present, how could they let him off the hook? Ho Qianyue and Tung Hu each grabbed one of Bian Kai's arms, forcibly pulling him off the sofa and tossing him in front of them. Li Xiang then conveniently shoved a microphone into Bian Kai's hand. Bian Kai was also enraged. You guys probably never imagined I could cheat. You want to see me humiliated? No way. You'll be shocked in a minute. He pulled up his attribute panel in his mind. Host, Bian Kai. Funds, unlimited. Lifespan, 62 years 286 days. Skill points, 550. Constitution, 20932, normal human 10. Mental strength, 1000, normal human 10. Martial artist level, peak martial master. Skills, advanced combat, advanced chef. Just in time, he spent 55 billion when buying the Blue Ocean Hotel. So in addition to an increase of 550 days in lifespan, he also gained 550 skill points. While skill points are primarily used to enhance overall strength, it's perfectly acceptable to occasionally use a few to improve other skills. System, how many skill points are needed to exchange for the singing skill? Reporting to the host, the basic singing skill requires 2 points, intermediate 5 points, advanced 10 points, and God of Song 20 points. Please choose which skill to exchange for. Hearing the system's quote, Bian Kai couldn't help but exclaim how cheap it was. Therefore, without hesitation, he directly exchanged for the highest level God of Song skill. If he was going to shock everyone, he might as well shock them thoroughly. As the skill exchange was successful, countless musical knowledge flooded into Bian Kai's mind, along with a master-level songwriting and composition auxiliary skill. After all, as a God of Song, it would be unreasonable to not know songwriting and composition. And after the exchange was completed, Bian Kai's attribute panel changed again. Host, Bian Kai. Funds, unlimited. Lifespan, 62 years 286 days. Skill points, 530. Physical constitution, 20932, normal human 10. Mental strength, 1000, normal human 10. Martial artist level, peak martial master. Skills, advanced combat, advanced chef, singing master, with master-level lyrics and composition skills. Actually, Bian Kai has a very good voice and a wide vocal range, but he has never studied music and rarely sings, thus lacking singing skills and music theory knowledge. However, with the system's support, this weakness has been overcome. Bian Kai's current level is at least enough to be crowned a heavenly king. Since he possessed such a high level of skill, singing existing songs would be rather dull. So Bian Kai uttered something that shocked everyone. Since everyone is so enthusiastic, it would be insincere not to perform an original song. Next up is Fairy Tale, which I'll sing a cappella, of course, without any accompaniment. This humble writer is writing about a parallel world, Earth, where the two worlds partially overlap, but also have differences. Please don't take it too seriously. I also don't have the ability to write my own song, so I'm just borrowing a bit from reality. Please don't be offended. I've forgotten how long it's been since I heard you. Tell me your favorite story. I've thought about it for a long time, and I'm starting to panic. Did I do something wrong again? You cried and told me that fairy tales are all lies. I can't be your prince. Bian Kai's magnetic voice emanated from the Emperor KTV's top-of-the-line sound system, instantly stunning everyone present. Although there was no accompaniment, the voice seemed to have its own reverberation. Moreover, Bian Kai's singing was incredibly emotional and moving, vividly depicting a scene before the audience. A simple, kind-hearted young man dreams of a sweet future love, but reality is cruel. The love he longed for never came. Fairy tales are all lies. He was deeply hurt, he despaired, and crushed by reality to the brink of destruction. The three women in the audience unconsciously shed tears. They all knew that Bian Kai had once deeply loved a girl, dreaming of all the beautiful and sweet moments with her. But that girl abandoned Bian Kai for vanity and money, even getting involved with his wealthy roommate. How desperate and helpless Bian Kai must have felt at that time. I want to become the angel you love in the fairy tale. Spreading my arms, I'll become wings to protect you. You must believe. Believe that we will be like in a fairy tale. Happiness and joy will be the ending. Just as the three women were shedding tears, Bian Kai's previously downcast and despairing gaze suddenly turned to them, his eyes suddenly filled with expectation and stubbornness, accompanied by the softly recited lyrics. The gloom from before was suddenly swept away, and a firm belief swept over them. The young man in the scene had not been defeated by the cruel reality. His heart was still filled with longing for beautiful love. He could become an angel for this belief, turning his hands into wings to protect the girl he loved. He believed that their love would surely end in happiness and joy. Lu Xueqing and Shi Ringxiu were unconsciously captivated by Bian Kai's affectionate gaze. They had never imagined that Bian Kai's feelings for them were so deep. This man was worth their everything, without any regrets. Lu Tong's gaze towards Bian Kai also changed from a slight affection and admiration to a deep attachment. She knew that in this life, no one else but the man before her could ever enter her heart. Bian Kai watched as the three ladies sang the climax of the song twice more, the entire private room filled with their deep affection, which lingered even after the song ended. After finishing his song, Bian Kai slowly opened his arms. Without hesitation, Lu Xueqing and Shi Ringxiu rushed into his embrace. Lu Tong wanted to run over too, but her relationship with Bian Kai was currently only that of employee and boss. So, she stood there, somewhat at a loss. Lu Xueqing seemed to sense Lu Tong's thoughts and waved to her, her eyes full of encouragement. Encouraged by Lu Xueqing, Lu Tong finally let go of all her reserve and also rushed into Bian Kai's arms, leaving Bian Kai somewhat helpless. He had originally intended to comfort Lu Xueqing and Shi Ringxiu, who were crying their eyes out, but now there was another one. Oh well, one more is one more. As a gentleman, isn't comforting a lady what he should do? Seeing the four people tightly embracing, the remaining men in the room, while envious, automatically left, leaving them alone. Bian Kai, you bad guy? Why did you sing such a sentimental song? I haven't cried in years. I don't care, you have to pay me back. Seeing everyone else leave, Lu Xueqing playfully punched Bian Kai's chest. As a tough woman in the legal world, she was always decisive and efficient. Nothing would make her cry. But Bian Kai had truly touched her heart this time. Shi Ringxiu's situation wasn't much better than Lu Xueqing's, and as for Lu Tong, being held by her beloved man, she was nothing but shy and bashful. Okay, I'll pay you back, definitely. How about 100 Balenciaga packs? Bian Kai teased upon hearing Lu Xueqing's words, only to be met with another flurry of playful punches. Shi Ringxiu then whispered in Bian Kai's ear, Little Kai, I want 200 packs. Lu Tong, however, was somewhat bewildered. Having never lived in Tianyu Mansion, she had no idea what Balenciaga was all about. Just as the group was enjoying their time together, the door to the private room suddenly opened, and Do Tianwei rushed in, looking somewhat flustered. He seemed to have run too fast, as he was panting. After taking a deep breath, he didn't care whether the situation was appropriate, and blurted out, Mr. Kai, there's something I feel I need to tell you. I saw that snakehead named Yunlei while I was wandering around downstairs just now. Yunlei? The smuggler? The one we met at the Blue Ocean Hotel. Bian Kai had a good memory. He immediately remembered who Yunlei was as soon as Do Tianwei mentioned her. Yes, that's her. When I found her, she was talking to a waiter. The waiter seemed to be urging her to hurry up. I secretly followed her and found the girl you met at the hotel with this smuggler in a private room. My intuition told me something bad might happen, or maybe it already has, because through the glass of the private room, I saw the smuggler urging 3 other girls to drink beverages. As expected, those drinks were laced with something. Mr. Kai, if that friend is important to you, I think you need to go now. It might be too late if you wait any longer. Do Tianwei didn't give Bian Kai a chance to speak, immediately recounting what he had discovered. The girl we met at the hotel? Bukursen. Oh no, why won't this little brat listen? We clearly told her roommate was a smuggler. Why did she still walk right into the trap? Ching, you guys wait here for me. I'll have 4th brother and 5th brother protect you. I have to go rescue someone right now, or it'll be too late. The 3 women, including Lu Xueqing, knew the situation was serious and quickly released Bian Kai to let him go rescue the girls. Bian Kai went outside, leaving Tung Hu and Li Xiang to protect the 3 women in the private room, and then led the rest of his men towards Bukursen's room. Bian Kai had a lot of faith in his 2 older brothers' abilities. With them there, Lu Xueqing and the others would be safe, and the 2 older brothers promised they wouldn't let the ladies be in danger. Just as Bian Kai and his men were heading towards Bukursen's room, the hidden elevator connecting the floors was activated, and the 4 drug girls were taken to Bai Qingshan's private room. The only strange thing was that Yunlei seemed to be among those completely unconscious, but Bukursen wasn't. However, Bukursen was completely unable to control her tearing at her clothes, her face filled with regret and despair. This situation arose because Bukursen hadn't let her guard down, so while Yunlei was out, Bukursen switched her coconut juice with Yunlei's. If Bian Kai's words were true, at least this would give her a way out. Of course, nothing bad would be best. Upstairs, Bai Qingshan was furious. After smashing everything he could, he found his anger hadn't subsided, so he urged Jin Pongzi to quickly bring the female college students up. Right now, only women, especially female college students like Bukursen and Pei Chuxue, could temporarily suppress his anger. Upon receiving Bai Qingshan's order, Jin Pongzi didn't delay for a moment. He didn't send a text message but instead sent a waiter directly to the private room to urge Yunlei. Urged on, Yunlei knew she'd already taken a while, but there was nothing she could do. Her 3 roommates seemed completely captivated by the sound system at Emperor KTV. They sang for almost an hour without any intention of drinking, so she had to go back to the room and persuade the other 3 girls to have something to drink, while she herself picked up her drink and started drinking. Unbeknownst to Yunlei, her original drink had been switched by Bukursen, and the one she was drinking now contained a potent toxin. The other 3 girls were indeed quite thirsty from singing. Pei Chuxue and Lu Yu didn't think much of it, and downed their drinks in one gulp. Bukursen assumed that if Yunlei were a smuggler, she wouldn't have put anything in her drink, so she boldly drank it down as well. She hadn't expected this. Yunlei's drink had also been spiked. It seemed she had wronged her roommate. This wasn't entirely Bukursen's fault. Any normal person would think the same way. What kind of smuggler would drug and cheat you? That's insane. What Bukursen didn't know was that her roommate wasn't insane at all. She was incredibly cunning and ruthless in her pursuit of money. She was willing to risk everything to conceal her identity. Only in this way could she avoid being exposed, maintain a good image at the Central Conservatory, and ensure the smuggling business continued for a longer period. At this moment, Bukursen felt a strange fire ignite within her, and it burned ever brighter. Burning under this fire, she felt incredibly hot, and her mind was filled with erotic images. Her consciousness was somewhat blurred, but thankfully, she hadn't completely vanished. However, her 3 roommates had completely lost consciousness. No matter how Bukursen called out to them, they didn't respond. Their faces were flushed, their eyes glazed, and they made soft, seductive moans, frantically tearing at their clothes. Yunlei only realized her drink had been switched before losing consciousness, but it was too late. In that instant, she even regretted her decision to put herself in this situation. The waiter, who had been waiting outside, saw the situation in the private room and pushed open the door, taking down a landscape painting that had been hanging on the wall, revealing a metal door about half a person's height and a person's length behind it. There was a red button on the top of the metal door. The waiter pressed the button, and the metal door slowly rose, revealing a space just large enough for 1 person. This was a hidden elevator connecting 2 floors. Calling it an elevator was a stretch of fancy. It was more like a food delivery corridor in a hotel. In a sense, Bukursen and the others were no different from a dish of food. First, Pei Chuxue was put into the elevator. She was completely unconscious, her t-shirt torn open, revealing her once fair skin, now a pinkish hue. When the waiter came to lift her, he tried to carry her, but thankfully, the waiter had a blanket wrapped around her and tied her up with rope to prevent her from grabbing or struggling. This process was all too familiar to the waiter. It was clearly not the first time. Bound and unable to move, Pei Chuxue groaned unconsciously, a sound that would absolutely arouse any man. The waiter then tossed her into the elevator, pressed the red button again, and the metal doors slowly closed, carrying Pei Chuxue to Bai Qingshan's private room. This process had a special name at Emperor KTV, delivery. Where there's delivery, there's receiving. In Bai Qingshan's private room, there was also a waiter responsible for receiving goods, but Fatty Jean shooed the waiter aside and took the goods himself. Seeing Pei Chuxue's appearance, Fatty Jean couldn't help but sigh. Damn it, those cards Yunlei hid are truly top-notch. She's even more beautiful in person than on the security camera. After Chairman Bai finishes using her, I'll have to try her too. Such a gem is rare indeed. After carrying Pei Chuxue out, Fatty Jean showed her to Bai Qingshan. Bai Qingshan was instantly captivated by Pei Chuxue's stunning beauty, his anger subsiding slightly and transforming into lust. Give this to me, Fatty Jean. Go tell the staff to quickly bring up the other one and take it directly to the lounge. Bai Qingshan was already impatient. After taking Pei Chuxue from Fatty Jean, he headed straight for the lounge. Zhongju watched as Bai Qingshan carried Pei Chuxue into the lounge, his eyes immediately lighting up. She was stunning. He'd never seen such a beautiful woman in his life. Thinking that one of his 2 women, excluding the snakehead, was a beauty of this caliber, how could he possibly resist? He grabbed Jin Pongzi by the collar, demanding that he bring up both of his women first. Since Chairman Bai already had one, he could play with that first. He, on the other hand, hadn't even gotten one yet. Jean Pongzi, nearly suffocating from the pressure, quickly nodded in agreement. At this moment, Jean Pongzi was cursing inwardly. Damn it, has he never seen a woman before? It's only a minute or two. Why is he in such a hurry? Although very annoyed, Jean Pongzi still obeyed Zhongju's order and gave the staff instructions. They could stall for time with Chairman Bai's woman, but Zhongju was clearly on the verge of madness. Jean Pongzi felt that if he didn't do as he was told, this guy would tear him to pieces. Upon receiving the order, the waiters shoved Lu Yu and Yun Lei into the elevator. Fortunately, both were very thin, so they managed to fit. After being taken upstairs, they were immediately carried by Zhongju to another lounge. Seeing Lu Yu's appearance, he went even crazier. Jean Pongzi didn't even see how she got into the lounge. Anyway, the two people in the elevator had definitely disappeared. The last person put into the elevator was Bu Kursin. She was the only one still somewhat conscious. Watching her roommates being taken away one by one, she felt utterly hopeless. However, just as the elevator doors were about to close, the door to the private room was kicked open from the outside. Bian Kai and a group of people burst in, just in time to see Bu Kursin being taken away. But by then, the elevator doors had already closed completely, and Bu Kursin was being taken to the private room upstairs. Ignoring the waiter beside him, Bian Kai went straight to the elevator and smashed the metal door open with a single punch. The deafening roar echoed throughout the private room, startling the waiter so much he collapsed to the floor. This young man was terrifying. The elevator door was made of aluminum alloy. Damaging it would require a professional cutting machine. Yet, Bian Kai's punch shattered it into pieces. Bian Kai was completely unconcerned about the loud noise he had caused. He needed to know which floor the elevator had stopped on. Looking through the metal door, Bian Kai saw that the elevator was stopped about 2 floors above them, the floor they had just been on. Having found his destination, Bian Kai didn't hesitate. He dashed out of the private room and ran upstairs, his speed so fast that it was difficult for an ordinary person to keep up. Only the Zhuang brothers could keep up with him. They silently followed closely behind Bian Kai. In that brief glance, they had already noticed that Bu Kursin's condition was abnormal. As for the others, they were left behind. Among the crowd, apart from Ho Qianyue, who was his sworn brother, only Xiang Tian vaguely knew Bian Kai's strength. When Bian Kai crippled Huang Xing, he guessed that his new boss must be very skilled. He had underestimated Bian Kai's strength, however. Such speed and power were beyond human comprehension. As for Dai Tianlu, Xiu Penghai, and the others, they were completely unaware of Bian Kai's abilities. When Bian Kai shattered the elevator door with a single punch, it wasn't just the waiter who was startled. Even they were taken aback, especially by Bian Kai's speed, which far exceeded their expectations. Most importantly, Bian Kai's older brothers seemed to be no less powerful than him. Martial artists. They were definitely martial artists, and very high-level ones at that. With their decades of experience, they naturally knew of the existence of martial artists. If Zhuang Yu and the others possessed such strength at their age, Dai Tianlu and the others wouldn't find it strange. But how old was Bian Kai? 20 years old. To possess such a high level of martial arts skill, Bian Kai once again shattered their understanding. It turned out that Boss Kai possessed not only immense wealth, but also astonishing strength. 10 seconds. Bian Kai rushed from the 3rd floor to the 5th floor in just 10 seconds. In the 2 lounges of the private room, where Bai Qingshan was, for girls were barely covered by their last shreds of clothing. Bai Qingshan wasn't in a hurry to process their business. Instead, he placed Bu Kursin and Pei Chuxue on the bed, gazing at their naked bodies. They were so beautiful. Their faces, figures, skin, flawless in every way. They were simply God's finest creations. Pei Chuxue, completely oblivious, tore at the last piece of clothing, revealing glimpses of her body. Bai Qingshan felt his heart skip a beat. He eagerly awaited the moment Pei Chuxue would undress herself. That would be the most beautiful sight in the world. Bu Kursin was in a slightly better state. Although she was also consumed by lust and unable to control her actions, she still retained a sliver of consciousness. She recognized the man before her. It was Bai Qingshan, the chairman of the Bai Group. She had met him once before at the sales office, and it had ended badly. Bu Kursin never expected that after escaping Bai Minghue's clutches with Bian Kai's help, she would fall into the hands of her father, Bai Qingshan. Chairman Bai, please, let us go. We are still students. Bu Kursin struggled to suppress her erotic thoughts, gritting her teeth as she pleaded with Bai Qingshan. Bai Qingshan was somewhat surprised. He hadn't expected this girl to have such strong willpower, able to withstand such a potent drug. Most importantly, she recognized him. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration struck him. Bai Qingshan finally remembered where he had seen this girl before. At the Tianyu Mingdi sales office, his first meeting with Bian Kai had escalated into a conflict, partly because of her. His son, Bai Minghui, had taken a liking to this female college student and had intended to make a move, but Bian Kai had thwarted his plans. Since my son couldn't enjoy it, I'll take care of it for him. I'll go back to the Central Conservatory of Music and find him an even better one. I hadn't paid attention to finding a school before, but I didn't expect there to be so many amazing students there. Haha, karma's a wheel, no one escapes its judgment. Bian Kai, you didn't expect this, did you? You stole my land, and I slept with your little girlfriend. Oh, right, I need to record this and send it to him later. Haha, his expression will be priceless. Bai Qingshan only managed to vent some of his anger after discovering Bu Kursin's identity. He decided to have a proper business discussion with this girl. Moreover, he vowed in his heart that this was just the beginning. He wouldn't let anyone around Bian Kai go. He would make this guy despair. Seeing the expression on Bai Qingshan's face, Bu Kursin fell into deep despair, weakly crying out, no, no, but it still couldn't stop Bai Qingshan from reaching for her last bit of clothing. In another lounge, Yun Lei and Lu Yu were completely naked. Zhongju was somewhat intoxicated as he caressed Lu Yu's smooth, jade-like skin, while Yun Lei was pressed directly against him, looking extremely shameless. Just as the two were preparing to start their business, a loud noise suddenly came from outside, followed by what appeared to be a heavy object falling to the ground and crashing to the floor. Bian Kai was incredibly fast, arriving just before Bai Qingshan and Zhongju succeeded. Enraged, he didn't even bother opening the door. He simply kicked the door of the private room flying, sending it hurtling towards the opposite wall before bouncing back and slamming heavily to the ground. Fatty Jean was dumbfounded. The delivery had thoroughly spurred him on. While he couldn't enjoy the top-tier women in the lounge, there were still 4 outside, weren't there? So, he decided to take advantage of the 2 women inside being busy and do his own thing. Besides, they only had 2. He had 4. But just as he pounced on the 2 women on the sofa, the private room door flew open, the deafening sound making his ears ring. His previously overflowing blood rushed back to his head. Looking up, he saw a familiar figure appear in his line of sight. Jean Pongzi would never forget that figure. In all his decades of life, he had never suffered such a loss. Bian Kai's image was etched deeply into his mind. Jean Pongzi. You're really asking for it. Bian Kai entered and recognized Jean Pongzi as he saw the person sprawled on the sofa. He flashed in front of Jean Pongzi and raised his foot to kick him. Jean Pongzi cried out and hurriedly covered his head. Although he looked strong, the incident at the Chinda Jade store had already proven that he was no match for Bian Kai. However, the expected kick didn't land on him. He looked up and saw Zhongju, who had rushed out of the lounge, blocking his way. Zhongju caught Bian Kai's kick and, in turn, punched him in the chest. A crack was heard, and Bian Kai's chest visibly caved in, sending him flying backward. Damn it, Lao Yao. Zhuang Yu and the other 2 were completely unprepared for Zhongju's sudden appearance, resulting in Bian Kai being instantly and severely injured. Xiao Jun quickly retreated to catch Bian Kai, while Zhuang Yu charged forward, engaging Zhongju in combat. For a moment, the entire private room was filled with the 2 figures, making it impossible to distinguish which was the real person. Lao Yao, how are you? Bian Kai was coughing up blood, his eyes tightly closed, and his breathing had almost stopped. Host's life is in critical condition. Do you wish to consume skill points to recover from your injuries? The system's voice suddenly appeared in Bian Kai's mind. He had thought he was going to die, but he hadn't expected the system to have such a function. Select. Bian Kai didn't hesitate at all, immediately choosing to consume skill points to recover from his injuries. At this moment, survival was the most important thing. He noticed that the lifespan column on the system panel had turned gray, meaning his original lifespan of nearly 63 years had been rendered useless due to his severe injuries. Ding, 500 skill points consumed. Host's injuries have healed. As the system's voice rang out, Bian Kai's body visibly began to recover. His breathing became even and powerful, and the lifespan indicator on the system panel in his mind once again emitted a white glow. Damn, that's really expensive. My life is worth too much. 500 skill points, that's 50 billion. Feeling his body fully recovered, Bian Kai opened his eyes to see his anxious second brother, Xiao Jun, and third brother, Pang Long, with the sounds of fierce fighting still ringing in his ears. Second brother, third brother, I'm alright. I'm not that easy to kill, Bian Kai said, standing up abruptly. All his injuries had vanished. Xiao Jun and Pang Long were speechless with shock. They had clearly seen Bian Kai on the verge of death, and now, less than a minute later, he was standing up again, full of energy. Looking at his astonished brothers, Bian Kai smiled and said, My 2 older brothers, this is my secret. I'll tell you when the time is right. Who was it that injured me? Xiao Jun gave Bian Kai a deep look. His youngest brother had far too many secrets, but since Bian Kai had said so, there was no need to press further. That's Zhongju, the boss of Hungan Security, our sworn enemy. Bian Kai instantly understood. No wonder he could severely injure him with a single punch. It was Zhongju, whose strength was nearly equal to his elder brother's, and 8,000 times stronger than him, was beyond Bian Kai's capabilities. Watching the figures rapidly moving across the arena, Bian Kai could only barely make out Zhuang Yu and Zhongju's figures with his current eyesight. They were simply too strong. Seeing Bian Kai stand up again, Zhuang Yu finally relaxed. He had been worried about Bian Kai's injuries while fighting, so he hadn't used his full strength. Now that Bian Kai was alright, he could focus entirely on dealing with Zhongju. Perhaps due to his enhanced mental power, Zhuang Yu felt his control over his strength had become much more refined than before. Although the change wasn't drastic, he had a subtle advantage in his fight with Zhongju. If the fight continued like this, he would definitely win in the end, because he was wasting far less energy than Zhongju. This was the benefit of his enhanced mental power. Zhongju was incredibly frustrated. He'd been fully charged and ready to get to work in the break room, but then his nemesis suddenly stormed in. What the hell was going on? This fight was completely baffling. Most importantly, Zhuang Yu, whose strength had previously been roughly equal to his own, had improved so rapidly that he was starting to feel overwhelmed. This won't do. Continuing like this would definitely put him at a disadvantage. Zhongju quickly assessed the strength difference between himself and Zhuang Yu. The result was clear. He couldn't win. Moreover, the second and third members of the Strong Shield were also there. If they joined the fight, he might die here. Thinking this, Zhongju fought and retreated until he reached the window. Then, seizing an opening, he smashed through the window and jumped from the 5th floor. Zhuang Yu didn't hesitate and gave chase. Second brother, go help eldest brother. Leave this to third brother and me. Seeing the 2 disappear, Bian Kai, fearing something had happened, quickly told Xiao Jun to go help. Xiao Jun was also worried that Zhuang Yu and Zhongju's fight would end in mutual destruction, given what had happened before. Be careful, I'm going after eldest brother. With that, Xiao Jun jumped out of the window and chased after the direction Zhuang Yu and Zhongju had disappeared in. At this moment, Dai Tianlu and the others finally arrived. Seeing the mess in the room, they gasped in shock. What had just happened? Had it been bombed? Bian Kai paid no attention to the arrival of the others. His attention was focused on 2 figures about to escape. To be fair, Fatty Jean, despite his rough appearance, was very cautious. Besides the delivery elevator, there was another one in this private room. This elevator, leading directly to the 3rd basement level, was Jean Pongzi's private elevator for going to the underground boxing arena, and also his escape route. They had originally thought Zhongju could hold off Bian Kai, but unexpectedly, Zhuang Yu from Changdun was also there. Jean Pongzi and Bai Qingshan were naturally aware of their feud. Now that they had directly fought their way out of the Emperor KTV, Jean Pongzi and Zhuang Yu had lost their only backer. Without Zhongju, they couldn't possibly stop Bian Kai. Their only option was to escape. The main entrance was definitely out of the question, so this elevator became their only escape route. If they could escape to the third basement level, there were over 100 boxers trained by Jean Pongzi, including many martial arts masters, although their levels weren't high. Most were at level 3 or 4, with a few reaching level 5. But their numbers were overwhelming. With such strength, they could probably kill Bian Kai, let alone stop him. Therefore, while Zhuang Yu and Zhong Ju were fighting, the two secretly slipped into the elevator. Attracted by the battle, Bian Kai and his group didn't notice their subtle movements until Zhong Ju and Zhuang Yu left. Only then did Bian Kai refocus his attention on Fatty Jean. However, the elevator doors were about to close, and through the crack, Bai Qingshan cast a cold glance at Bian Kai. Just as Zhong Ju hadn't expected Zhuang Yu to be there, he hadn't expected Bian Kai to appear before him. This guy seemed born to oppose the Bai family. He had ruined his plans time and again. First, his son Bai Minghui's attempt to take down Bu Kursin was thwarted by Bian Kai. Then, the land he had been planning to acquire for so long was snatched away by Bian Kai. And now, just as he was about to succeed in taking down Shuangfeng, Bian Kai had thwarted it again. He had rushed out of the lounge in a hurry, not even having time to put on his pants, wearing only his underwear, and saw Zhuang Yu and Zhong Ju locked in a fierce fight. Bai Qingshan shared the same thought as Fatty Jean. With Zhong Ju blocked and their backer gone, their only option was to escape. He knew all the men in Changdun. They were no match for him or Fatty Jean. Fortunately, Fatty Jean had a backup plan. The moment the elevator doors closed completely, Bai Qingshan and Fatty Jean finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fatty Jean, can those boxers you hired kill Bian Kai? Bai Qingshan's face was now so dark it was almost dripping with gloom. He had never been so humiliated in his life, forced to flee in his underwear. It should be about right. Zhuang Yu and Xiao Jun, the strongest from Strong Shield, went after Mr. Zhong. Fourth and fifth brothers aren't here. Only Bian Kai and third brother Pang Long are here. Although Bian Kai has some strength, judging from the power he showed when he fought me last time, he's probably only at the peak of the apprentice level or a beginner martial master. If we arrange for more people to hold Pang Long off for a while, and then send 2 martial master level 5 fighters, we should be able to easily take him down. Fatty Jean thought for a moment and said confidently. Bai Qingshan's face lit up with joy upon hearing this, and he said, all right, while Zhuang Yu and Xiao Jun are chasing Zhong Ju, lure them to this underground boxing arena. Make sure Bian Kai stays here. Fatty Jin's face showed a troubled expression upon hearing Bai Qingshan's words, and he said, Chairman Bai, although Pang Long is only the third among the 5 brothers, he's still a peak martial master. To kill Bian Kai, at least half of my fighters will be lost. What? Fatty Jean, are you disobeying my orders now? Even if half your fighters are wiped out, you must keep Bian Kai here. If you miss this chance, do you think you'll have another chance for revenge? It hasn't been long, and that kid's forces have grown this strong. If we delay any longer, there will be no place for either of us in Zhongbei City. Bai Qingshan hadn't expected the usually shrewd Fatty Jean to make such a mistake. That group was clearly led by Bian Kai. As long as Bian Kai was eliminated, any losses could be recovered later. No, I'll gather all the fighters and prepare for battle right away. After Bai Qingshan's explanation, Fatty Jean felt a cold sweat break out. Chairman Bai was right. This was the only chance. The elevator stopped on the 3rd basement level. When Bai Qingshan stepped out, he was wearing Jean Pongzi's clothes, while Jean Pongzi's flabby body was exposed. Mr. Jean, what's going on? A waiter at the boxing ring was puzzled by his boss's appearance, wanting to laugh, but holding it in. What is it? Give me some clothes right now, then gather all the boxers and seal off all exits. Someone's causing trouble. Jean Pongzi's anger flared at the waiter's expression, and he kicked the waiter, sending him sprawling. Because a match was taking place in the ring, the audience was shouting and cheering for their favorite fighters, and no one noticed Jean Pongzi's disheveled state. The waiter quickly found clothes for Jean Pongzi, and the more than 100 boxers gradually gathered. In a private box on the 5th floor, Bian Kai felt slightly embarrassed. After Bai Qingshan ran away, he didn't immediately chase after him, but instead rushed to the lounge to rescue Bu Kursin. To his surprise, the moment he rushed in, he was enveloped in a warm, fragrant embrace. Pei Chushua's medicinal effects had already reached their limit, and while Bu Kursin was in slightly better shape, her effects were still limited. Holding 2 almost completely naked beauties in his arms, Bian Kai's breathing became rapid. What the hell is going on? Hey, Bu Kursin, wake up, damn it. The others glanced at it quickly and turned away, heading towards the door, led by Ho Qianhua. Do Tianwei said as he left. Mr. Kai, the drug they were given is probably a white pill that recently appeared on the market in Zhongbei City. This stuff is extremely potent. There's almost no way to treat it except for business transactions. Please, do your part, and help the 2 ladies with the antidote. And Mr. Kai, you'd better hurry, otherwise their lives might be in danger, they might even die. We won't go far, we'll stay right outside. You'd better hurry. Damn it, don't leave. You guys are so heartless. I can't handle this alone, and there are 2 more in that lounge over there. You should at least help me out. The group had already retreated outside, not far indeed, standing just outside the private room. The commotion had naturally alerted the people in the other private rooms. Teng Hu and Li Xiang didn't want Lu Xueqing and the others to get involved. It was far too dangerous outside. They were certain their youngest brother and the others were fighting with the other side. However, they weren't worried. With their brother's strength, they were practically invincible in Zhongbei City. A mere Emperor KTV could be easily dealt with. But Lu Xueqing and the others weren't ones to sit still. Add to that Shi Yingxiu, who loved stirring up trouble, and the 2 wouldn't listen to Teng Hu and Li Xiang, persistently nagging them to go out and see. Finally, Teng Hu and Li Xiang had no choice but to lead the 3 ladies out of the private room. As soon as they emerged, they saw Xiang Tian, Dai Tianlu, and the others standing neatly in a line on either side of the door to the large central private room. Most importantly, everyone was intentionally or unintentionally pointing their ears towards the inside of the room, as if eavesdropping on something. What are you doing? Where's Bian Kai? Lu Xueqing asked, curiously peering into the room. Upon seeing the main wife emerge, Ho Qianhua awkwardly said, that youngest brother is inside administering an antidote. Sister-in-law, there's nothing to see during the antidote process, so please don't. Let go of Bian Kai. You 2 shameless bastards. The door to the private room had been kicked open by Bian Kai, allowing Lu Xueqing and the others to easily see what was happening inside, resulting in a scene deemed R-rated. Shi Yingxiu screamed, and Ho Qianyue couldn't stop her in time, nor did the others dare to intervene. Shi Yingxiu screamed and tried to rush into the lounge, but was stopped by Lu Xueqing and Lu Tong, who clearly noticed that Pei Chuxue and Bu Kersen were acting strangely. Xiu, don't get agitated. Things might not be as you think. I believe Bian Kai will definitely find a way to resolve this. Lu Xueqing struggled to pull the nearly agitated Shi Yingxiu back. Her best friend was easygoing with girls she approved of, but the two in the lounge clearly hadn't earned her approval yet. At this moment, Bian Kai no longer cared about the situation outside. He quickly asked the system in his mind. System, is there any way to solve the current problem? Host, we suggest you hurry up and complete the business. According to this system scan, one of the two people's heart rate is approaching the critical value, and their lives are in danger. Damn it. Is there any constructive advice? If I could just complete the business, wouldn't I have done it already? There are a bunch of people watching outside. Then we suggest the host learn intermediate-level traditional Chinese medicine skills to detoxify through acupuncture. This will cost 20 skill points. Does the host wish to learn? Learn. Hurry up. I can't take it anymore. Third brother, hurry up and get me a set of silver needles. Bian Kai was truly about to reach his limit. His hands were covered in a slippery substance, and he was probably about to explode at any moment. Pei Chuxue and Bu Kersen were completely frantic. Upon hearing Bian Kai's order, Pang Long didn't hesitate at all and instantly vanished from the Emperor KTV. 20 skill points deducted from the host. Congratulations, host, you have acquired intermediate traditional Chinese medicine skills. As the system voice faded, countless TCM knowledge flooded Bian Kai's mind, and he quickly found a way to resolve his current predicament. After struggling for another 3 minutes, just as Bian Kai was about to collapse, Pang Long finally returned, holding an acupuncture kit, which he tossed to Bian Kai. Senior, Lu Tong, come in and help me hold them down. The three ladies outside didn't waste any words and rushed into the lounge, laboriously pulling Pei Chuxue and Bu Kersen off Bian Kai. The whole process was incredibly erotic, with 5 stunningly beautiful women pulling and tugging back and forth. Bian Kai took several deep breaths to barely calm himself down. Senior ladies, hold Bu Kersen down first. Lu Tong, hold Pei Chuxue back from coming any closer. The 3 sober women obeyed. Bian Kai opened the acupuncture kit, took out a silver needle, and, according to the TCM knowledge in his mind, directly inserted it into Bu Kersen's head. After the first needle was inserted, Bu Kersen, who had been writhing wildly, immediately quieted down. Seeing the good effect, Lu Tong, who was holding Pei Chuxue, immediately said, Mr. Kai, give this girl a needle first. I can't hold her any longer. Bian Kai turned around at this, his eyes widening in shock. In the struggle with Pei Chuxue, Lu Tong had removed her last bit of clothing. Damn, what a loss. If only it were a different situation. Bian Kai muttered, then took another silver needle from his acupuncture kit and inserted it into Pei Chuxue's head as well. However, the acupuncture technique that had been so effective on Bu Kersen had little effect on Pei Chuxue. Although she quieted down a bit, she was still wriggling incessantly in Lu Tong's arms. Lu Tong couldn't hold on for a moment, and Pei Chuxue broke free. Then Bian Kai was once again enveloped in her warm embrace. Ba, may the 3 pure ones be above. This is truly a sin. Holding Pei Chuxue, Bian Kai didn't hesitate for a moment, inserting 2 more silver needles into her head. Finally, she quieted down. Pei Chuxue and Bu Kersen seemed to be asleep. The other 3 ladies placed them on the bed and were about to cover them with something when Bian Kai stopped them. Bian Kai, what are you trying to do? Haven't you seen enough? You big jerk. Shi Yingxiu immediately protested when she heard Bian Kai stop her from covering them. It was obvious he hadn't seen enough. Ahem, Xiu, don't talk nonsense. The treatment isn't over yet. These needles were just to calm them down. The medicine hasn't been expelled yet. Bian Kai knew his words sounded somewhat lewd, but it was indeed the truth. The medicine hadn't been expelled, and the two would be in the same state when they woke up. Xiu, stop fooling around. This isn't a joke. Let Bian Kai treat them quickly. Speaking of which, Mr. Kai is really unpredictable. He even knows acupuncture. Lu Xueqing also tried to persuade Shi Yingxiu, appearing more composed than Shi Yingxiu. I know more than just acupuncture, Bian Kai said mysteriously, then took out a handful of silver needles from his acupuncture kit and inserted them into Bu Kersen and Pei Chuxue's bodies one by one. Following the treatment method he remembered. The redness on their bodies gradually faded, but their right middle fingers became increasingly red, even turning slightly black. This was because Bian Kai was using acupuncture to force all the medicinal power in their bodies to their right middle fingers. When the redness on their bodies completely disappeared, their right middle fingers had turned completely black. You 3 stay away, or you'll get splattered with blood. After Bian Kai finished speaking, Lu Xueqing and the other 2 immediately retreated far away, seemingly knowing what he was about to do. Just as the 3 had expected, Bian Kai took a relatively thick silver needle and swiftly inserted it into Pei Chuxue and Bu Kersen's blackened fingers, then quickly pulled it out. Sizzle, sizzle. 2 streams of blood, reddish-black, spurted from their fingers. Fortunately, Bian Kai dodged quickly, avoiding getting any on himself. The blackish-red blood spurted for over 10 seconds before slowly stopping, turning their fingers deathly pale. Thankfully, both women's breathing had completely calmed, and they had fallen into a deep sleep. Lu Xueqing quickly grabbed a nearby mat and covered Pei Chuxue and Bu Kersen. Bian Kai was now soaked in sweat. Logically, with his skill, this shouldn't be the case, but the treatment process had pushed him far beyond his limits. Therefore, this profuse sweat wasn't from exhaustion, but from holding his breath. Phew, finally they're all right. Senior, you guys find some clothes for them to wear. I'll go to the other restroom. There are 2 more there. In the other restroom, Lu Yu and Yunlei were already showing signs of shock due to their rapid heartbeats. If they didn't receive immediate treatment, their lives could be in danger. Bian Kai looked at the 2 lying on the bed and couldn't help but sigh. Zhongju's hands were truly swift. Bian Kai treated Lu Yu using the same method. As for Yunlei, he didn't want to get involved. This woman was the root of today's troubles. Without her, the other three girls wouldn't have come to this place, nor would they have drunk the drugged beverage, almost leading to their assault. After Bian Kai had Lu Tong help Lu Yu out, Yunlei, lying on the bed, coughed up a mouthful of blood. Observing her, Bian Kai knew she probably wouldn't live much longer. Her rapid heartbeat caused her blood pressure to spike. At this point, most of her blood vessels had ruptured, especially those in her brain, which are very thin and easily burst. Bian Kai, are you really not going to save her? Lu Xueqing looked at Yunlei lying on the hospital bed with mixed feelings. She had already learned the truth from Do Tianwei, but watching someone die before her eyes still made her feel a pang of reluctance. Why save her? It's better for her to die. Besides, she drugged herself. It has nothing to do with us. Let's go. Arrange for someone to take the other three girls to the Blue Ocean Hotel first. Although Bian Kai knew they were students from the Central Conservatory of Music, he didn't know which dormitory they lived in, and given their current condition, they wouldn't be able to take care of themselves even if they returned to their dorms. So, he had no choice but to send them to the Blue Ocean Hotel first. Mr. Kai, I've made a new discovery. Since the three girls' belongings were still on the third floor, Bian Kai asked Do Tianwei to retrieve them. Upon arriving at the private room on the third floor, Do Tianwei immediately noticed the surveillance cameras installed in the four corners. What did you find? Bian Kai asked, puzzled. There's a high-definition surveillance camera in that private room on the third floor. If I'm not mistaken, the server for the surveillance should be in that room. I think it probably stores a large amount of video footage of human traffickers operating. As the owner of the Blue Ocean Hotel, Do Tianwei was very knowledgeable about these kinds of things. When he saw the cameras, combined with the elevator connecting the third and fifth floors, he instantly understood the system's purpose. The guests in the fifth floor private room would select their prey through the surveillance video, then divide the spoils. After the spoils were divided, the traffickers would drug the prey, and once the drug took effect, the prey would be transported to this private room via the elevator. This is also why there's a rest area in this private room. The goods brought up are processed directly in the rest area. This process virtually eliminates the possibility of failure. Bian Kai was stunned by Do Tianwei's conjecture. These people would stop at nothing to satisfy their personal desires. In that case, Mr. Do, you're in charge of finding the server, taking the hard drive, and then taking all the ladies back to the Blue Ocean Hotel. I'll deal with this matter when I get back. Do Tianwei knew he couldn't be of much help here, so he followed Bian Kai's instructions and began searching the room for the server. It wasn't difficult to find. When Bai Qingshan went berserk earlier, he smashed the large screen, and the server was behind it. So Do Tianwei removed the hard drive with almost no effort. Lu Xueqing and the others wanted to stay, but the next task was dangerous, so at Bian Kai's insistence, the three of them went back to the Blue Ocean Hotel with Do Tianwei. This time, Tung Hu and Li Xiang didn't go along. Once they were at Blue Ocean, it was their territory, and they didn't need to worry about safety. If Bai Qingshan were still here, he definitely wouldn't be considering killing Bian Kai. The Strong Shield 5 brothers weren't just three, they were all here. Even with the underground boxing ring's large number of fighters, they couldn't possibly withstand them. President Dai, President Xiang, are you coming down with me, or waiting upstairs? Do Tianwei had already told Bian Kai about the underground boxing ring, so it wasn't hard to guess that Bai Qingshan and Fatty Jean had definitely escaped there. As for whether they escaped from elsewhere, they could only find out by going down. Youngest brother, what are you saying? We're brothers, of course we have to go together. Ho Qianyue immediately objected when he heard Bian Kai was going to leave him behind. How could he miss out on such an exciting event? Although he wasn't strong enough to fight, watching his brothers crush the weak was still very enjoyable. The others also expressed their desire to go down with him. Hearing this, Bian Kai simply stopped trying to dissuade them. Let them all go. With his and his three older brothers' strength, nothing unexpected would happen. Ding. Bian Kai and the others did not linger and directly boarded the elevator that Bai Qingshan had just escaped in, after which the private room returned to silence. In the lounge, a fairly attractive young woman gradually stopped breathing and her heartbeat ceased. Her once vibrant body grew cold. No one paid her any attention, and no one tried to help her. As a high-quality human trafficker in Zhongbei City, Yunlei finally paid the price for her actions. Although she usually paid a price, this time it was her life. Although it was her own fault, if Bukursin hadn't changed the drink, or if Bian Kai had offered assistance, she might have survived. But surely, bad deeds always have their consequences, right? Just as Bian Kai and his group were taking the elevator down to the third basement level, 11 men in black suits burst into the private room. The leader, wearing a baseball cap and a lollipop dangling from his mouth, had a mocking look in his eyes. He glanced at the dilapidated room without speaking, then raised his hand and waved. The 10 men behind him immediately stood at attention and said in unison, yes. They then thoroughly searched the entire private room and lounge, erasing all traces. Finally, they wrapped Yunlei's body in a sheet and carried it away. Like Shuang Yu and Xiao Jun, these 11 people jumped out of the window. Upon landing, a person wearing headphones approached and said, reporting, Captain, all surveillance data has been completely destroyed. We've confirmed there are no backups. Good job, number 7. Let's wait a bit. With Shinsi and his brother's strength, they should finish the battle quickly. This is a big event. We'll be busy. The man in the baseball cap spoke with a somewhat cynical air. At this moment, a burly man, easily 2 meters tall, said in a simple-minded manner, can't we just take matters into our own hands and wipe out that by group? This kind of cleanup work is pointless. The man in the baseball cap was somewhat helpless upon hearing this, but it was an order from above, and although he didn't quite understand it, he had to carry it out. 8th brother, do you think I don't want to? The higher-up said this is the Divine Child's trial. We don't need to interfere. Our job is to eliminate all of the Divine Child's worries so that his trial can proceed smoothly. All right, let's rest for a while. Oh, right, 2nd brother, dispose of that woman's body. Make it look like an accidental death, and then notify the locals to close the case without investigation. Bian Kai was naturally unaware of this group's presence, and even less aware that he was the Divine Child they were talking about. At this moment, he, along with his brothers and Dai Tianlu's group, had arrived at the 3rd basement level. The moment the elevator doors opened, they were surrounded by over 100 boxers. The once bustling boxing arena stands were now deserted. Fatty Jean had just announced the arena's early closure, clearing all the spectators out. While this would affect tonight's business, Bai Qingshan had given him a strict order. Bian Kai had to stay there. He himself left with the departing crowd. Always cautious, he certainly wouldn't put himself in danger. Although Fatty Jean had confidently assured him he would kill Bian Kai, there's always an unexpected turn of events. If the fight were to spill over into him, with his ordinary physique, he probably wouldn't even withstand a single punch from these people. It was best to leave first. Standing behind hundreds of boxers, Fatty Jean watched the elevator slowly open, then his eyes widened suddenly. Damn it, wasn't it just Pang Long alone just now? How come Fujitora and Li Xiang are here too? Although there's still a chance to take down Bian Kai, his side's losses will likely be enormous. Even if they manage to take down Bian Kai in the end, these hundreds of boxers, and even he himself, could very well end up here. Thinking of this, Fatty Jean slowly began to retreat towards the exit. Hee, brothers, Bai Qingshan really thinks highly of us, sending so many people to deal with us. But they don't seem very strong. How about we brothers have a contest to see who takes down more? Haha, youngest brother, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Although your mental strength is strong, you still have a lot to learn in terms of combat. Don't even mention a contest. If you take down more than half the number of people your brothers take, you win. Fujitora, whose hands were already itching to fight, became interested when he heard Bian Kai suggest a contest. The other boxers looked at them like they were idiots. Aren't you guys being a little too arrogant? Can't you see how many people we have? Alright, you two stop chatting. If you keep talking, Fatty Jean will run away. Bai Qingshan has already slipped away. If we let this fat guy go too, we won't catch any of them today. Pang Long saw Fatty Jean at the back of the crowd, trying to escape, and spoke up. Since that's the case, brothers, let's make our move. Seeing Bian Kai and the others about to attack, Fatty Jean roared from behind. Brothers, we've been training for this moment. Chairman Bai said that whoever can take down that young man over there will get a 100 million yuan reward, and the boxing ring will immediately process his retirement. Upon hearing Fatty Jean's words, the breathing of the more than 100 boxers became heavy. Most of them had signed indentured contracts with the boxing ring. As long as they weren't crippled or dead, they had to serve the boxing ring indefinitely. If they were injured, the boxing ring would give a token compensation, usually only a few 100,000 yuan. If they died, they would simply be buried. A boxer's prize money for a single winning match is only 100,000 yuan. A winning streak significantly increases the prize money. However, the boxing ring usually resorts to underhanded tactics, arranging for a winning boxer to face an opponent they can't possibly defeat, thus ending their winning streak. No one dares to run away. If discovered, the boxing ring will mobilize all its boxers to capture the person. Whoever catches them receives a 1 million yuan reward, while those who try to escape are immediately disposed of. Therefore, even with their exceptional skills, these boxers still couldn't escape Fatty Jean's grasp. Now, to kill that young man, the usually stingy Fatty Jean has offered such generous terms. How could the boxers not be tempted? A fierce battle instantly erupted. Bian Kai and his brothers charged into the crowd, unleashing a massacre. All the boxers desperately tried to reach Bian Kai, believing that this guy was so young, his strength must be mediocre, while the others looked like formidable opponents. So a very strange scene unfolded on the battlefield. Bian Kai, the weakest of the brothers, received the most attention. No wonder, he was worth 100 million. The boxers surrounded Bian Kai, unleashing a barrage of attacks. Although Bian Kai repeatedly knocked down boxers, some still charged forward fearlessly. Meanwhile, the stronger fighters, like Pang Long, were completely ignored. They couldn't do anything about it. Bian Kai was simply more valuable. But this move by the boxers backfired spectacularly on Fatty Jean. His original plan was for his 100-plus men to hold off the 3 strong shield-wielding fighters, giving him a chance to eliminate Bian Kai. Secondly, the chaos of the battle would allow him to escape. He had even instructed all the boxers to do this beforehand. He just hadn't expected a shout to turn them all against Bian Kai. Logically, this shouldn't be bad. At least it should have taken down Bian Kai. But Fatty Jean never expected this guy to be so strong, still managing to fight with ease, even surrounded by hundreds of fighters. Moreover, fighters were constantly being knocked to the ground, groaning in pain. Actually, Bian Kai was holding back. Otherwise, with his nearly 2,100 times stronger physique, a single punch would have shattered these fighters. With all the boxers focused on Bian Kai, Pang Long and his 2 companions were temporarily left with nothing to do. Although they considered ambushing the boxers from behind, Bian Kai's effortless handling of the situation made them think it unnecessary. They also wanted to see just how strong their younger brother really was. The match was just a joke. However, the 3 weren't just passive spectators. Fujitora turned and saw the fat man, Jean, trying to escape. In a flash, he rushed over, grabbed Jean without a word, and tossed the 200-pound man to Pang Long and Li Xiang's feet. Although he fell flat on his face, Jean didn't dare cry out or move. He recognized these guys. They were all peak martial masters, easily dispatched with a single punch or kick. He simply curled up on the ground, feigning a pitiful state. Pang Long and Li Xiang glanced at the chubby guy at their feet, but then ignored him, their attention completely focused on the battle. They were ready to intervene immediately should Bian Kai encounter any trouble. However, judging from the current situation, it seemed unnecessary. Leaving aside Bian Kai's martial arts level, his skill alone was almost on par with their eldest brother, Zhuang Yu, and even slightly stronger than the 3 brothers. Second brother, third brother, how can our youngest brother be so strong at such a young age? To be honest, being surrounded by so many people and still so composed, it wouldn't be easy for us to do that either. Fujitora flashed back to his 2 older brothers, completely ignoring the chubby guy curled up on the ground, and said with some emotion. Pang Long also clicked his tongue in amazement, agreeing wholeheartedly with Fujitora's words. For Bian Kai's age, achieving such strength couldn't be simply described as genius. In the stands, Xiang Tian, Dai Tianlu, Xiao Penghai, and the others were completely dumbfounded. They had initially thought that Pang Long and his group would be the main force in this battle. However, these 3 brothers, like them, stood aside and watched the show, leaving Bian Kai facing over 100 fighters, a sea of people so dense you could barely see him. But seeing Pang Long and the others calmly chatting indicated that Bian Kai wasn't in any real danger. It wasn't that they didn't want to watch. It was just that Bian Kai's movements were incredibly fast. They could only see a blur of motion as he weaved through the crowd. Awesome, so awesome. Bian Kai had never felt so exhilarated. With the boost from his powerful mental energy, he felt a sense of oneness with nature. His advanced fighting skills flowed effortlessly, without the slightest hesitation. The 100 fighters unleashed a barrage of attacks, but none of them truly struck him. Instead, Bian Kai seized every opportunity, effortlessly dispatching a fighter with a single, casual strike. Is this the power of a peak martial master? While fighting, Bian Kai was also pondering. His current multiplier was only around 2,100 times. How powerful must his elder brother Zhuang Yu and Zhong Ju's physical abilities, exceeding 8,000 times, be? Wouldn't Grandmaster level, or even great Grandmaster level martial artists be even more terrifying? Ultimately, his strength was still too weak. He could handle ordinary martial master level martial artists with ease. Like when he encountered Zhong Ju earlier, a single punch nearly killed him. If it weren't for the system, Bian Kai would have had no hope of survival. Within just 5 minutes, half of the boxers had been knocked to the ground by Bian Kai, but they were only incapacitated, not killed. In fact, Bian Kai hadn't actually killed anyone since gaining his power. He had only crippled Huang Xing, not killed him. It wasn't that he was afraid to kill. He simply wanted to save his first kill for Bai Mingwei.